Chapter 60-134. It was the first strike of the 7 immortal blades. With a roar, Dao Qin attacked. The sky saber slashed forward. The huge saber light was crystal clear like a crystal. The entire sky seemed to have shattered. This strike was extremely terrifying, far surpassing all the previous saber lights. The people on the other side also gasped. Was he going to use his ultimate move to determine the winner? The 7 immortal blades were a super immortal technique. It seemed like he was going to end the battle quickly. Humph! In the face of such a terrifying attack, Lin Xian snorted coldly. Heaven trampling, immortal slaying. He took a step forward and shattered the starry sky under his feet. Then, the immortal slaying sword slashed out fiercely. At this moment, Lin Xian merged the power of the divine fire and the immortal qi into the immortal slaying sword at the same time. What he wanted to do was not only to defeat his opponent, but also to merge the 2 powers at the same time. His Tao was more than 10 times more difficult than his opponent's. Boom! The 2 powers exploded together, causing the power of this strike to be extremely terrifying. He blocked his opponent's first strike. There was a loud explosion, and countless stars around him turned into ashes. Lin Xian said coldly, "Is that all you have?" Dao Chen snorted. Second strike. The saber qi on his body became even more terrifying. The immortal qi seed between his eyebrows trembled violently as if it was going to break out of the ground. There was another strike. The second strike was launched. Lin Xian was still waving his sword, and the power of the divine fire and immortal qi erupted. Although it was terrifying, Lin Xian was not satisfied, because the 2 powers were clearly separated. After blocking his opponent's second strike, Lin Xian attacked again. This time he took the initiative to attack. He slashed the sky with his sword. Not only did sword qi appear on his body, but a Tai Chi diagram also appeared. The Tai Chi diagram merged with yin and yang as it spun continuously. Lin Xian roared into the sky. He wanted to forcefully merge with it. With a crack, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and a crack appeared on his body. The forceful merging had injured him. What was going on? Was Lin Xian injured? Countless people were stunned when they saw this scene. Those great emperors also frowned. It was impossible for him to forcefully merge the power of the divine fire and immortal qi. The people from the other side sneered, "I think we don't even need to do anything. He will definitely die." On the other side, the Empress also raised her head to look at the sky. The next moment, she sighed. Was he going to use those 2 pagodas? However, Lin Xian hadn't said anything yet. Let's wait a little longer. Idiot, take my third stab. Dao Chen harumphed coldly. He did not believe that the other party would succeed. There was indifference in his eyes, but his power was becoming more and more terrifying. This slash should be able to kill a great emperor easily. As expected, those martial monarchs were trembling in fear. After Lin Xian vomited blood, he didn't care at all. He slashed out with his sword again. The power of Tai Chi appeared on the long sword, forming a Tai Chi diagram. It carried the aura of divine fire and immortal qi as it spun between heaven and earth. With a clang, their weapons collided, shattering everything in their path. The ears of the martial monarchs buzzed. Everyone felt as if they were looking at a legend. This battle was too terrifying. The fourth slash, the god-slaying saber. Dao Chen was also furious. These 3 slashes could kill several great emperors, but he still couldn't kill the other party. He took out the sky saber and used a peerless saber technique. How could he allow himself to be defeated? Therefore, the 4th slash, he had to kill the other party. Under this slash, countless lives were destroyed. Why? Those lives screamed. They didn't offend the other party, right? Why did the other party want to kill them? However, no one answered. Some great emperors frowned. Do you know why the divine realm fought against the otherworld heavenly king? Because the otherworld heavenly king was too ruthless. Not only did they want to be the overlord, but they also wanted to enslave the other party. The other world, Heavenly King, had never treated others as humans. In their eyes, the other worlds were ants that could be killed at any time when necessary. As expected, when the god-slaying saber was used, billions of lives were destroyed. The power of these people after they died was integrated into the saber light. This caused this saber strike to be extremely terrifying. It's your honor to be integrated into the life saber. Dao Chun did not care about this at all, as he said coldly. These words caused everyone to be shocked. Lin Xian was also furious. It was too ruthless. A sword like a dragon. He activated the power of the dragon's sword soul. The sword transformed into a dragon. The world was shocked when the sword was used. This sword was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. The dragon-shaped sword Qi seemed to fill the entire universe. Everyone could see the shadow of a dragon rushing out in front of them. Roar! 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 Their fourth slash collided. Then heaven and earth shattered, and more stars were turned into ashes. Damn it! Dao Qin retreated. His arm was numb. The power of the dragon sword was indeed terrifying. Together with the god-slaying sword, it was really powerful. He had integrated billions of lives, but he still couldn't kill the other party. Damn it, it still wasn't enough. All the worlds in the universe deserve to die and become my power. A hint of madness appeared in his eyes. God-slaying saber. He was ready to use the fifth slash. At this moment, those from the other world, Heavenly King, frowned. Was the fifth slash going to be used? It was a little too forced. The Heavenly Seven Slashes was an extremely terrifying immortal technique. No matter how powerful Dao Qin was, he wasn't a great emperor. It was already extremely terrifying to be able to use 4 slashes, especially the fourth slash, which was extremely powerful. Even a great emperor with a wisp of immortal energy couldn't withstand it. But now, the other party was going to use the fifth slash. This was something that had never happened before. Let him do it. The virtual immortal walked over and said in a deep voice. The surrounding people bowed. Greetings, Senior. The virtual immortal said. This battle is no small matter. He is the son of an immortal. It won't be a problem for him to break through. I think we have to end the battle quickly. That kid still wants to forcefully integrate with the power of an immortal. I don't know what he's relying on. The people from the other world, Heavenly King, also frowned because they could see that Lin Xian was in a very bad state. Although he blocked the god-slaying saber, Lin Xian's body had a second crack. It was a crack that was torn apart by the power of an immortal. Was the other party going to continue? If he continued, he would die. Couldn't he? Lin Xian also took a deep breath. With his own strength, even if he used the Tai Chi diagram, he couldn't completely integrate. It seemed that he could only choose one of the two powers. It seemed that he could only rely on other treasures. Lin Xian looked into the distance and said through voice transmission, Senior, use the 2 pagodas. The Empress nodded after hearing that. Then she waved her hand. 2 rays of light flew out. Heaven and earth split open, and a terrifying aura swept in all directions. When they sensed this scene, the people from the other world, Heavenly King, were stunned. Dao Qin also retreated frantically. What was that? He felt a chill down his spine. Everyone was shocked. Was someone going to forcefully attack? However, when they saw the 2 black figures descending from the sky, they were stunned. They were all stunned. What was that? Chapter 6135. 2 black shadows descended from the sky. The aura they emitted made everyone's hair stand on end. They looked up and were extremely shocked. What were those? They realized that the 2 black shadows were 2 pagodas. The aura on them was extremely terrifying. One was emitting a mysterious yellow aura, while the other was emitting an exquisite light. No one knew what the pagodas were. They only knew that they were terrifying. However, the people on the other side were shocked. The virtual immortal's pupils constricted. he exclaimed, "the black-yellow pagoda and the 7 treasures, exquisite pagoda." To think that these 2 things would appear as well. Moreover, they were both in the hands of the deity realm. Damn it, what was going on? The other great emperors on the other side also frowned and said, "These are 2 legendary things." The virtual immortal frowned even more. Back then, when he was attacking Shangqing City, he had sensed a mysterious message from it. Now it seemed that it was the black-yellow pagoda. However, where did the 7 treasures, exquisite pagoda come from? The situation was not good. No wonder Lin Xian dared to walk the path of an immortal. With the 2 pagodas, his chances of success were probably higher. However, it was only a little higher. He did not even have a 50% chance of success. Thinking of this, he sent a voice transmission to Dao Qin, telling him to hurry up and not give the other party any more chances. Dao Chen's expression also became extremely ugly. Hearing the voice transmission, he shouted coldly, "Go to hell!" He held the sky saber in his hand and charged forward. The sky collapsed and the rumbling sound shook the sky. At the same time, he invoked the thunder of the sky. He wanted to prove his Dao. He would not give the other party a chance. On the other side, Lin Xian waved the immortal slaying sword. He did not dodge at all. Above his head, the 2 pagodas descended. At the same time, Lin Xian opened the Tai Chi diagram. It spun and absorbed the power of the 2 pagodas. It surrounded his body. Dao proving, Lin Xian also roared. Suddenly, the divine fire seed and immortal chi seed exploded. The lightning in the sky instantly descended. In an instant, the front turned into a sea of lightning. Retreat quickly. At this moment, everyone retreated. They did not dare to resist the thunder of Dao proving. Their thunderbolts were extremely terrifying. However, Lin Xian was even more terrifying. The 2 of them were actually attacking each other in the sea of lightning. At this moment, Lin Xian did not hold back at all. It was as if he had turned into a peerless sword god, sweeping through all directions. The great dragon's sword spirit erupted and slashed at the sky saber. A sonorous sound rang out between heaven and earth as Lin Xian activated the 6 paths of reincarnation. The phantom of the reincarnation sword also slashed down, and the 2 fought fiercely. Boom! Boom! The firmament blade kept shaking, and the radiance on it dimmed a little. Dao Chun kept retreating as well. His hands were covered in cracks. His bloodline spread out in all directions. Damn it, bloodline saber. With a furious roar, those shattered blood vessels turned into a blood-colored long saber and ruthlessly slashed over, tearing apart Lin Xian's 9-yang divine body. Lin Xian's body also swayed. However, a hint of viciousness appeared in his eyes. A slap landed on Dao Chen's face. Dao Chen was hit so hard that he almost fell to the ground. His face was a mess of flesh and blood. "You're courting death." The 2 of them fought in close combat, using all sorts of laws, mystiques, supreme skills, and killing moves. The great emperors who were watching from afar were terrified. Not only that, but when the lightning in the sky descended and struck their bodies, a large number of cracks appeared on their bodies. Let's see how long you can last. Half of Dao Chen's face was smashed, and many of his bones were broken. However, he did not care. With a wave of his hand, he took out an immortal pill and swallowed it. His originally weak blood, chi, instantly exploded. "I have an immortal pill. What do you have? You think you can compete with me? When you're exhausted, I'll kill you." Dao Chen sneered. Lin Xian did not have an immortal pill. He did have some pills, but for someone of his level to recover in an instant, it was impossible. The level of the pill would be extremely terrifying. However, although he did not have an immortal pill, he had the ancient land. From the ancient land, he mobilized the power. Lin Xian's depleted energy instantly recovered to its peak. This scene left Dao Qin dumbfounded. This was impossible. He did not believe that the other party also had an immortal pill. One had to know that although the deity realm had taken over a few ancient cities, their foundation was still much weaker than the Permitha. The Permitha had always been in the Eternal Land, and there were countless treasures there. Moreover, immortal pills could only be refined by Earth Immortals. The Earth Immortals of the deity realm had just recovered. How could they have the time to refine immortal pills? How did the other party recover? He did not understand. With a boom, he was sent flying by the sword and was almost split in half. His internal organs had all been obliterated. His body, which had just recovered, was once again severely injured. Damn it! He roared crazily. Lin Xian snorted. Even if you have an immortal pill, you can't recover in an instant. Let's see how you can destroy the power of the dragon sword soul. With that, he attacked again. With the immortal slaying sword and the dragon sword soul, Lin Xian attacked with all his strength, forcing the other party to retreat. To be honest, Lin Xian was also surprised because the other party's recovery speed was much faster than ordinary Great Emperors. The other party's bloodline was really terrifying. However, it would still take some time for him to fully recover. However, in the next moment, Dao Chan roared, "Recover!" His shattered internal organs had actually recovered to their original state. Lin Xian was surprised. What was the power that destroyed the dragon sword soul? Dao Chen let out a furious roar. It was as if he had turned into a peerless deity as he knocked Lin Xian back with a single slash. At the same time, he sneered. "Stupid thing, my father is a saber immortal, not an ordinary earth immortal. He has cultivated an immortal art. My father once taught me a recovery technique, which is also a secret technique of the immortal art. Although I haven't cultivated it to a high level, my recovery speed is far from ordinary Great Emperors. I want to see how you will die in the end." With that, he attacked. The two fought. In the blink of an eye, Lin Xian's body also split open. But soon, the power of the ancient land helped him recover. Then he attacked Dao Qin and forced him to retreat. With a sword, he split the other party into two. Dao Chen used the immortal art and the immortal pill to recover. The people in the distance were stunned. The other great emperors also gasped. "You can fight like this?" To be honest, even they would probably die, because whether it was the dragon sword soul or the sky saber, they were both extremely terrifying things. The great emperors had immortal qi, but if their immortal qi was used up, they would also die. But these two guys seemed to be unkillable. Every time they were injured, they would recover instantly. Are we old? Are the young people now so terrifying? At this moment, the great emperors were doubting life. Chapter 6136. The battle ahead was still as terrifying as ever. Lin Xian's expression was solemn. What a powerful enemy! It had been so many years since he had met such a terrifying enemy. His opponent's recovery speed was on par with his. Moreover, he had mastered the power of some immortal arts. From what he heard, immortal arts were extremely mysterious and rare. Even an immortal might not have mastered them. How terrifying was the saber immortal! Shaking his head, Lin Xian knew that now was not the time to think about this. He had to deal with the guy in front of him first. Another earth-shattering collision. Then Lin Xian retreated. He did not take the initiative to attack again. Dao Chen sneered. "What? Kid, are you afraid? I guess even if you have some natural treasures, they should have been used up by now, right?" "Humph," Lin Xian snorted. "You're thinking too much. I'm thinking about how to kill him in one strike." With that, he stretched out his hands. On his left hand, the immortal qi seed jumped, and on his right hand, the divine flame seed spread. Then, Lin Xian took out the great dragon sword spirit and summoned the phantom of the reincarnation sword. Kill! With both swords, Lin Xian was like a killing god at this moment. With a bang, Dao Chun was sent flying as if he had been struck by lightning. He vomited blood. This time, even his soul was severely injured. "Recover for me." He used his immortal arts to recover, but although he recovered, his speed was slower than before. Good chance. Lin Xian saw that his opponent had an immortal art. So what? So what if he had an immortal pill? How many did he have? One had to know that he had an ancient land. Even though the ancient land was still in the midst of recovering, its strength was definitely stronger than the other party. Therefore, Lin Xian attacked again, ignoring the injuries on his body. So what if he was injured? He would recover instantly. This time, Dao Chun was at a disadvantage. He was so angry that he attacked without any regard for his life. In the end, his body was cut into several pieces. Even his soul was cut open. The pain made him hover between life and death. This time he retreated far away and only recovered after a while. The people on the other side of the river saw this scene and frowned. Not good. Dao Chen's strength was declining. If this continued, even if he did not die, it would be difficult for him to recover completely. After all, even if Dao Chun had a heaven-defying celestial art, he did not have endless power. There would always be a time when one's strength would run out. Great Emperor Bailey's face turned ugly. Damn it, how is this possible? What exactly did this kid have in his hands? Instant recovery? Even the son of immortals weren't as rich as him. How did he do it? Dao Chen's background was so terrifying that ordinary martial monarchs were nothing in his eyes. Dao Chun was confident that he could escape unscathed even if he had to fight against two super martial emperors with immortal qi. A super great emperor could instantly kill an ordinary great emperor. One could only imagine how terrifying Dao Chun was. But now his opponent was actually being suppressed. He could not wait any longer. Great Emperor Bailey said, "Virtual Immortal Lord, shall we attack?" The virtual immortal nodded. He didn't dare to wait any longer. He said, "Then let's do it. You guys attack first. I'm an Earth Immortal, so I can't attack casually. I'll attack at the critical moment." Yes. Great Emperor Bailey and the others nodded. Then they all took out a jade pendant and wore it on their bodies. There was a trace of lightning on the jade pendant. This was the power of the heavenly punishment sword. Under normal circumstances, even a great emperor would not dare to approach the lightning of Dao validation. This was because once they triggered their own lightning tribulation, they would be reduced to ashes. However, the Nirvana realm was different from others. They had the heavenly punishment sword. The Nirvana realm's master was known to control the heavenly Dao. Therefore, they could use the power of the heavenly punishment to dodge the power of the heavenly lightning. In fact, the virtual immortal was even prepared to use the power of the heavenly punishment to suppress Lin Xian. Boom! In the next moment, Great Emperor Bailey and the others moved. More than 10 figures. Among them, there were 5 great emperors. The rest were extremely terrifying quasi-emperors. They quickly charged over. The people who were watching the battle from afar were stunned. Heavens, someone is attacking. Impossible. Are they courting death? Anyone who entered the lightning of Dao validation would trigger their own lightning tribulation. They would most likely die. Did they not want to live anymore? To be honest, the people around them were not afraid of a sneak attack at all. In their opinion, no one could interfere in the battle of Dao validation. However, someone was trying to assassinate Lin Xian. Moreover, their target was Lin Wudi. Were they from the Nirvana realm? However, the Nirvana realm could not be so heaven-defying. When these people entered the lightning of Dao validation, the lightning roared in the sky. However, it did not attack them. This made the myriad worlds in the heavens dumbfounded. Impossible! How did they avoid the lightning tribulation? Could it be that the Nirvana realm was so heaven-defying? They were all crazy. Not good. The people from the Divine Union were even more shocked. Even the people from the Yi family and the Gu family narrowed their eyes. They actually did it. Damn it. Shuet Qi, Murong Qingqing, and the others immediately rushed over. However, they were stopped by the Empress. You can't go. If you go, you will trigger the lightning tribulation. But why are they fine? Shuet Qi asked. She was really anxious. The Empress said that they had the power of the heavenly punishment. The heavenly punishment controlled all kinds of power. The heavenly lightning was a kind of power. Naturally, they could control it. Could it be that they could just watch as their husband was killed? No, they couldn't. The Empress shook her head. We are also prepared. After saying that, she looked up at the sky. A black vortex appeared in the sky. Lord Alcohol came out and said in a deep voice, "Let's go." After saying that, he waved his hand and a few black stones appeared. The Iron Blood Great Emperor and the others grabbed the black stones and carried them with them. Then they quickly rushed out. They also charged toward the lightning of Tao validation. No way, right? Everyone in the universe was also dumbfounded. The people from the Divine Union could also avoid the lightning of Tao validation? What kind of joke was this? Who could do that in thousands of years? However, when the Iron Blood Great Emperor and the others entered, everyone was shocked. They realized that they were really fine. These people had also successfully avoided the lightning tribulation. When she saw this scene, Xueqi said, "Senior, do you still have those stones? Give me one." "I will go too." Xia Jiu also stepped forward. Previously, when he had validated his Tao, Lin Xian had desperately helped him. Now that Lin Xian was in trouble, how could he shrink back? Lord Alcohol nodded and threw 2 more stones to the 2 of them. After the 2 of them picked up the stones, they quickly rushed forward. Murong Qingqing and Yanryu also wanted to go, but they were stopped. The Empress said, "The 2 of you are still boundary emperors. If you go, you won't be able to do much." Boom! The lightning of Tao validation was extremely terrifying. It could destroy everything in the world. Originally, only Lin Xian and Dao Chen were there. However, in an instant, many people rushed over. On Lin Xian's side, more than 10 figures rushed over. Among them, there were 5 great emperors. The terrifying power and the vast world made Lin Xian's hair stand on end. In an instant, he was severely injured. As if he had been struck by lightning, he retreated. Go to hell! The Bailey Great Emperor and the others released cold, killing intent. Chapter 60-137. Lin Xian was also surprised by the sudden attack of these people. He had guessed that these people would attack. However, it should be after he had verified his Tao. After all, they should not dare to go against the lightning tribulation. However, he did not expect these people to be able to ignore the lightning tribulation. Was it because of the heavenly punishment sword? Lin Xian guessed. However, he did not have time to think about it. He roared angrily and began to counterattack. His figure kept dodging. At the same time, the immortal slaying sword in his hand flew out continuously, and a destructive force erupted. With a swing of the sword, a boundary emperor was split into 2. His body and soul were destroyed, and blood rained down. Great Emperor Bailey roared, and the boundary emperors retreated from his attack range. Immediately, those figures retreated quickly. Only the 5 great emperors were left to fight Lin Xian in close combat. The 5 of them used their killing moves as soon as they attacked. They wanted to kill Lin Xian in the shortest time possible. Lin Xian had indeed encountered the greatest danger. Not only did he have to face the attacks of these people, but he also had to face the lightning tribulation. However, at this moment, a roar could be heard from afar. "Damn it, get out of here." It was Dao Chen's voice. Hearing this voice, Great Emperor Bailey and the others were shocked. Oh no, could it be? They turned their heads and saw that Dao Chen was surrounded by a few great emperors. He was covered in blood and was in a terrible state. How could this be? Great Emperor Bailey and the others were stunned. They could enter because of the heavenly punishment sword. How did these people from the deity domain enter? How did these people ignore the lightning tribulation? The Iron Blood Great Emperor roared and smashed the hammer in his hand. One of Dao Chen's arms was smashed out of shape. Dao Chen was in pain and quickly retreated to recover. However, at this moment, another great emperor charged over. He was in great danger. "Come and help me," he roared crazily. "Damn it!" Great Emperor Bailey clenched his teeth and led the other great emperors back to help. A great battle broke out in an instant. The sky was filled with divine flames and immortal chi. The lightning tribulation continued to fall. On Lin Xian's side, the pressure was greatly reduced. He slashed out with his sword and penetrated one of great Emperor Baiyu's wings. Countless feathers fell from the sky. Martial Monarch Baiyu backed off frantically with an unpleasant expression. "Kill!" they roared angrily. In the distance, when the virtual immortal saw this, he said in a deep voice, "You guys attack too." Two more figures walked out from the crowd. These two figures had two strands of immortal chi. They were super emperors. One of them was called UTI. The other was the Thousand Mountain Great Emperor. When the two of them heard the order, their figures flashed, and they also quickly descended. As soon as they appeared, they burst forth with extremely terrifying power. The Iron Blood Martial Monarch and the others felt chills running down their spines. They could only retreat rapidly. However, at this moment, on the side of the deity realm, the Empress also came out. She was also a super great emperor. She charged towards Thousand Mountain Great Emperor. The Thousand Mountain Great Emperor was huge and powerful. Each of his attacks could tear the sky apart. However, her Lady Empress was similarly incomparably powerful. The two of them engaged in a great battle and were evenly matched. UTI sneered. His body was pitch black like thick ink. A pair of claws slashed towards Lin Xian. "Die." Lin Xian quickly retreated, not resisting. At this moment, a roar came from afar. Immediately after, a fearless lion tore through the void and rushed over, blocking the black claws. "Who is it?" UTI roared. Lin Xian was also stunned. Could this fearless lion be him? He turned his head and saw golden light sprinkling down from the sky. A man with a powerful aura of blood and chi walked over. The Golden Lion King. UTI gritted his teeth. "You're not dead yet." The Golden Lion King snorted coldly. "It's not that easy to kill me." As he spoke, he punched out. Another fearless lion roared between heaven and earth. When the others saw this, they were shocked. What a powerful aura, what a domineering fist. Was this person the legendary Golden Lion King? Lin Xian was also shocked. How could he not know this person? Previously, he had been to the Golden Lion Palace of the Heavenly Court. Back then, there was a mysterious man lying in the golden coffin inside. It was this Golden Lion King. Unexpectedly, not only was the other party not dead, but he was also a super great emperor. It seemed that some of the experts of the Heavenly Court had also recovered. Back then, the Heavenly Court had nurtured top assassins. There was another use, which was to give super experts a place to rest and recuperate. With the addition of the Golden Lion King, the battle became even more terrifying. Even super great emperors had appeared. The entire void was completely shattered, and the endless starlight dimmed. No one knew what the result would be. The other emperor clans also frowned. They knew that the Earth Immortals would definitely make a move. However, it should not be now. It should be at the most critical moment. Without Lin Xian and the threat of super great emperors, he began to break through with all his might. The aura of the two pagodas above his head made his body bloom with a mysterious light. He began to fuse the immortal energy and the divine fire seed. With a boom, endless lightning seemed to erupt from Lin Xian's body. His blood and chi churned. He spat out a mouthful of blood. However, gradually, the divine fire seed and the immortal energy seed began to fuse. A super powerful immortal energy erupted from his body. Not good. He was actually going to fuse. Dao Chan roared crazily. Damn it, stop him. Now he was also anxious. He quickly activated the immortal energy seed, wanting to attract the heavenly lightning and break through first. However, He was very uncomfortable from the beating. The divine fire around him made his hair stand on end. The 1,000-mountain great emperor snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, countless mountains appeared in the sky. The entire world darkened. It was very oppressive. Large cracks spread out for tens of millions of miles. The people in the distance retreated again. The entire star field in front of them had completely turned into a battlefield. You dare to be distracted when fighting with me? I have to say, you are really courting death. The Empress snorted coldly. She activated the Rui in her hand. A mysterious and cold aura burst out and collided with the 1,000-mountain Great Emperor's body. The 1,000-mountain Great Emperor's shoulder instantly split open. He retreated and grunted, "Damn woman." Once again he roared and charged over. Facing the attack of 1,000 mountains, Lin Xian did not dare to be careless at all. As he retreated, he dodged the most fatal threat. At the same time, he waved the immortal slaying sword. With a few slashes of his sword, cracks appeared on the mountain peaks, causing countless rocks to roll down. Fuse! He roared angrily again. The divine fire seed and immortal energy seed fused again. This time he actually slashed out a very terrifying sword. It split a mountain into two halves. One had to know that although Lin Xian was strong and could fight and even kill a great emperor, he was only an ordinary great emperor. However, he was only an ordinary great emperor. He was no match for a super great emperor. But now he could actually split a super powerful attack. Could it be because of the power of an immortal? Damn it! Seeing this scene, the virtual immortal could not help but take a step forward. The power of an earth immortal erupted. Then, a peerless divine sword appeared in his eyes. It pierced through heaven and earth and charged toward Lin Xian. Chapter 6138. Before the sword arrived, Lin Xian felt as if his entire body was about to split apart. Damn it, he was so powerful. Lin Xian's expression was ugly. Land immortals were really too terrifying. However, this made him even more determined to fuse with them. Xian, don't worry, I'm coming. An angry roar sounded between heaven and earth. Then a fist appeared. With a soaring battle intent, it charged towards the sword energy. Then the two exploded. Lin Xian retreated. A tall figure descended. It was Lin Zhan. He said, "Continue to break through. No one can hurt you today." Lin Xian nodded. Even his father had made a move? Just you? Humph. The virtual immortal looked at Lin Zhan with disdain. He was filled with killing intent. This guy was just a great emperor before. He was just an ant. After saying that, he rushed out with his sword again. Go to hell. This was not Upper Azure City. Previously, when they were in Upper Azure City, the two of them had fought before. The other party could resist her. However, the other party had mobilized the power of Upper Azure City. Otherwise, he would have killed the other party with one hand. This time, how much of Upper Azure City's power could be mobilized across the endless void? A shocking sword light flew out from the palm of the virtual immortal. They tore apart the universe and cut open the sky. They attacked Lin Zhan. Lin Zhan snorted coldly. I don't need to borrow the power of Upper Azure City. I can kill you. After saying that, he punched out. His fist seemed to have transformed into a battle dragon. It was incomparably huge. It carried a monstrous aura as it swooped down. With a loud boom, the sword chi was actually blocked. The virtual immortal frowned. You broke through to become a land immortal. That's right. Lin Zhan took a step forward. I just broke through not long ago. I can use you to test my combat strength. Stupid thing, you are courting death. The virtual immortal was completely furious. So what if you broke through? You only broke through a few years ago, right? Let me tell you, there are strong and weak land immortals. The virtual immortal roared and quickly rushed over, flying forward as well. The two of them clashed in an instant. Not long after, Lin Jon was sent flying by the sword. A crack appeared on his body, and many of his bones were broken. The virtual immortal laughed out loud. "You're still not good enough." However, Lin Jon didn't say anything. He roared again. He rushed over again. Lin Xian's eyes turned red when he saw this. However, he didn't say anything. Instead, he gritted his teeth and fused with all his might. Only when he succeeded in breaking through would the others be able to attack without any reservations. Boom! The two fused together a little more, shocking everyone. Could it be that it was really possible? The virtual immortal roared. "Attack those two pagodas. If you have the chance, send them flying." He could tell that the Heaven-Earth, Black-Yellow Pagoda and the Seven Treasures, Exquisite Pagoda, were able to merge with the force of the gods. As long as the pagoda was sent flying, the other party would definitely die. When the people of the other world heard this, they attacked madly. However, how could the people of the deity realm give him such a chance? They defended with all their might. The virtual immortal roared, "Supreme Palace, aren't you going to make a move? Are you just going to watch him break through like this? Don't forget, if he breaks through, you won't have a good time either." How could the people of the Supreme Palace not come to such an earth-shattering battle? Netherworld Sovereign and the others gritted their teeth. Last time, Lin Xian had killed quite a few people from the Paragon Hall. Even Gue Qinya had died. They had to take revenge, and this was the best opportunity. They quickly rushed over. Not good. The expressions of the people watching the battle from afar changed drastically. Originally, the two sides were evenly matched. However, if the Supreme Palace joined in, the situation would not be good. "Big brother, don't worry. We'll help you." At this moment, another group of people flew over from afar. These people had an extremely cold aura, which surprised countless people. Could it be that they were from the Netherworld? That's right, the people who came were from the Netherworld. The one at the front was actually a child. It was Butian. Behind Butian were the Netherworld beasts and the people of the Tautai clan. Among them, there were several Thearchs. After they came out, they charged toward the Supreme Palace. "D***, are you crazy?" Netherworld Sovereign roared over there. "Why are you from the Netherworld interfering in this matter?" The Netherworld beast sneered. "None of your business." The Tautai clan said, "Lin Gongzi is our benefactor. Naturally, we have to help." The two sides fought again. Butian also came. He did not join the battle because he was not qualified to do so with his strength. However, this time he carried something with him. It was a bell. It was very big and was engraved with Tao patterns. Even Butian found it difficult to carry it. However, his little face was tense and he did not let go. The others were stunned. Why did this guy bring a bell? Even Xia Xingqian was surprised. Here, Butian flew over to the Divine Union, the Crimson Dragon, and the Toad said, "Child, why are you carrying it?" Butian said, "I'm here to help Big Brother. This thing was left behind by my grandfather." "Your grandfather?" The Toad was puzzled. "Who is your grandfather? Is it the Great Emperor?" However, the Crimson Dragon frowned. "Wait, why do the Tao patterns on this bell feel so familiar? Could it be that you are?" "My grandfather is a celestial master." After Butian finished speaking, he began to move. He prepared to form a seal with his small hands, and a mysterious power of heaven and earth appeared one after another. The Toad was shocked. It was so magical. The Crimson Dragon exclaimed, "Are you from the Celestial Master lineage?" One had to know that he was currently cultivating the Celestial Master lineage. He had naturally heard of the other party. However, hadn't the Celestial Master lineage disappeared for a long time? He did not expect it to be in the Netherworld. Butian did not say much. He activated the bell. Instantly, countless great Daos intertwined on the bell. Everyone could feel their souls shaking. Of course, this was not an injury, but a strange feeling. Some elders were stunned. Why did I feel that my soul had been sublimated? Heavens, what kind of treasure was that? The people from the Divine Union were also shocked. The savage wilderness ancestor and the others also felt this strange feeling. The people from the Emperor race were also shocked. Zhong Lingxiu Yi Wu Dao and the others' eyes were red. What was that? The crimson dragon roared. Could this be the legendary Dao harmonization bell? What was the Dao harmonization bell? No one knew. However, Lin Xian's eyes lit up. This was because he felt that the fusion of the divine flame seed and the immortal qi seed had sped up. Moreover, it seemed to be more stable. Damn it, the celestial master lineage was courting death. The virtual immortal in the distance roared. At the same time, he secretly transmitted his voice. In the sky, a huge black shadow appeared. Then, a claw slammed directly toward Butian and the others. At this moment, the people from the Divine Union went crazy. They felt their bodies split open and their souls were about to be extinguished. Someone was attacking them. Moreover, it was an Earth Immortal. F***CK, shameless. The toad roared instantly. However, just as he opened his mouth, he spat out a large mouthful of blood. Chapter 60, 139. It wasn't just the toad. The people from the Divine Union were also attacked. They thought that they were dead meat. However, at that moment, a black vortex appeared above their heads and blocked the claw. At the same time, an angry voice was heard. Are you courting death? Lord Alcohol had also made his move. To be honest, he had been on guard against the other party's Earth Immortal. However, he had never expected that this Earth Immortal would attack the people from the Divine Union instead of attacking Lin Xian. These people from the Divine Union weren't even Thearchs. Under normal circumstances, Earth Immortals wouldn't attack such people. However, Higgin had done it. Lord Alcohol's eyes were filled with killing intent as he waved his sleeves. The devouring universe's power surged down. The cracked bodies of the Divine Union's toad and the others quickly recovered. Then they recovered. Lord Alcohol charged forward. The toad and the others were terrified. It was too terrifying. They had almost died just now. Was this the ability of an Earth Immortal? He could kill them with one move and save them with one move. The savage wilderness ancestor and the others were envious. The Earth Immortal who had attacked was none other than Master Rashi. At that moment, he was being chased by Lord Alcohol. When the terrifying devouring sword hit him, his huge body shook violently. Damn it! Master Rashi was enraged, and the two of them started fighting. However, Lord Alcohol had recovered quite a bit this time. Coupled with the devouring sword, he was extremely terrifying. More importantly, Lord Alcohol had really developed killing intent. He was chasing the big turtle all over the world. Even the Earth Immortals had made their move. Moreover, there were 4 of them fighting in the sky. Countless people were shocked. Was this a battle of the gods? It was too terrifying. Buzz! At that moment, another Earth Immortal's aura erupted in the distance. Boundless death energy filled the air. It was the Grim Reaper. Everyone's hair stood on end. The people from the Divine Union and the Heavenly Court were shocked. Was the Grim Reaper going to join the battle? However, even further away, a beam of moonlight shot into the sky and turned into the Moon Goddess blade. A cold voice was heard. Try it. The one who spoke was the Moon Goddess. However, she didn't appear, and neither did the Grim Reaper. However, their auras pierced through the 9 heavens. Both sides were threatening and intimidating. Lin Xian could sense that his seed of divine flame and seed of immortal qi had merged significantly. However, the fusion had not been completed yet. At this time, he needed to find an opponent. He stared at Dao Chen and said, "Do you dare to fight me again?" "Just with our strength alone, without the help of others. Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Dao Chen quickly charged over. This time his bloodline was fully unleashed. resulting in a boundless saber glow that shook the surroundings. The entire void was filled with saber light. It was the same on Lin Xian's side. His sword qi was vast and boundless. Boom! Boom! It was an intense collision. Dao Qin spat out mouthfuls of blood as if he had been struck by lightning. How could this be? His opponent's strength had become even stronger. The sword qi contained the power of the gods. Did he really merge the divine fire and immortal qi? Impossible. Dao Qin shook his head in disbelief. However, at this time he was penetrated by a sword, and half of his body split open. Ah! Dao Qin screamed and quickly retreated. On the other hand, Lin Xian took a step forward, shattering the endless void. Then he held the immortal slaying sword with both hands and slashed viciously. Dao Qin's expression became extremely ugly at this time. He felt an unprecedented sense of danger. With a roar, he quickly burned his bloodline. Then his speed skyrocketed and he dodged the sword. The place where he was originally standing was split into pieces. It's useless. You can't escape. Lin Xian's Rinnegan looked at his opponent, and the phantom of the reincarnation sword instantly erupted. It was also the power of the gods. Although it had not been perfectly merged, it was much stronger than before. With a bang, Dao Qin looked like he had been struck by lightning, and his body was covered with cracks again. How could this be? His face was pale, and he could not believe it. Lin Xian was incomparably cold. The power of the gods, since ancient times no one had achieved it. Although I have only merged a little now, it is still not something you can resist. Lin Xian's eyes burst with an extremely cold light. He seemed to have turned into a peerless god, looking down at his opponent. At this moment, Dao Qin's soul shook, and he seemed to be hallucinating. The Lin Xian in front of him had become high and mighty, and he needed to look up to him. No, how could I have such thoughts? He shook his head frantically. Kill, I must kill him. Dao Qin seemed to have made some kind of decision. In the next moment, his glabella split open, and a mysterious saber light flew out and merged with the sky saber. Suddenly, the sky saber bloomed with an unparalleled brilliance. At this moment, the 9 heavens and 10 earths were shaking. Millions of starry skies were shattering. Even those great emperors and super great emperors felt their hair stand on end. As for the few earth immortals, their expressions changed. Damn it, this aura is. Before they could react, a saber light flashed in the sky. Then, it slashed fiercely towards Lin Xian. Crack! Golden Saint blood dripped, and everyone was stunned. Husband. Murong Qingqing and the others felt like their hearts were about to split open. Lin Xian was seriously injured. How could Dao Qin have such strength? This was not Dao Qin's strength. Lin Zhan roared. Saber Immortal, can't you help but attack? If you have the ability, come at me. The others were also in an uproar. What? Is this the power of an Earth Immortal? Dao Qin actually borrowed the power of an Earth Immortal. Isn't this the battle of Dao validation? Does he think that he will definitely lose? Ha! Although Lin Xian was seriously injured, he was still laughing heartily. You actually borrowed the power of an Earth Immortal. You lost. You can't prove your Dao at all. Even if I can't prove my Dao, I will kill you. Dao Qin's eyes were red. He knew that he had failed this time. He had borrowed the power of his father. But so what? The person in front of him was too much of a threat. Compared to proving his Dao, he felt that killing the other party was more important, because in the future he would have plenty of opportunities to prove his Dao. Kill! Dao Qin spat out a mouthful of blood, staining the sky saber red. The sky saber contained the will of the saber immortal. At this moment, it seemed to have turned into an immortal weapon and attacked again. Lin Xian roared to the sky. The 2 halves of his body quickly merged. The heavenly spring of life in the ancient land gushed out, allowing him to recover quickly. In the next moment, he roared to the sky. Dragon! Transformation! Dragon scales grew on his body. His entire body merged with the great dragon's sword soul. Like an azure dragon, he appeared in the void. With a swing of his dragon tail, he dodged the saber. However, the sky saber was still chasing after him. It seemed that it would not stop until he was dead. It's over. If this continues, it will be dangerous. The people of the Yi family frowned. Should they make a move? But even if they had extreme weapons, would they not be able to defeat the other party? This was the will of an Earth immortal. It would probably be able to kill them with one strike. Boom! At this moment, heaven and earth split open. The clouds churned. In the void, a huge iron rod flew over. It caused the entire universe to shake. Then, this iron rod sent the sky saber flying. Countless people were horrified. What is this? Great, it's the sea-steadying divine needle. When Xueqi saw this scene, she was overjoyed. This is the weapon of the war god. With the appearance of the sea-steadying divine needle, Lin Xian's crisis was resolved again. At the same time, the voice of the war god sounded. Little guy, continue to merge. Let's see who dares to attack you. Lin Xian no longer dodged. Instead, he continued to merge the power of the divine fire and the immortal qi. However, in the endless void, the mysterious eternal power suddenly erupted with a piercing light. Then, a saber light seemed to have pierced through the universe and rushed over from afar. Chapter 60-140. This attack was too powerful. Even Lin Zhan and the other land immortals felt their hair stand on end. However, the sea-calming divine needle stood between heaven and earth and withstood everything. It blocked this saber light. Then, the aura of the fighting god also appeared. His fiery golden eyes also pierced through heaven and earth and looked into the distance. At this moment, the three sides of the battle stopped. They were shocked and bewildered. These two land immortals were too powerful. The people watching the battle from afar also sensed it. They seemed to be much stronger than the virtual immortal, Master Rashi, and the others. What was this? Were there strong and weak land immortals? They didn't know. However, the virtual immortal, Lin Zhan, and the others knew that these two people were the saber immortal and the fighting god. The two of them had cultivated immortal and divine arts. The auras of the two confronted each other. They didn't fight, but the atmosphere was abnormally terrifying. It was like the eve of a storm. Were they going to fight? The virtual immortal and Master Rashi were both excited. If the saber immortal made a move, he could definitely change everything. Moreover, the Supreme Palace should also join forces, right? However, to their disappointment, the saber immortal didn't make a move. It was merely an eruption of a shocking will and aura. It seemed to be intimidating the divine realm. However, the fighting god wasn't weak either. His fiery golden eyes looked down on everything, and his aura didn't fall behind at all. Lin Xian continued to break through. The fighting god's voice sounded. Lin Xian didn't stop. He reached out his hands and directly grabbed the heaven-earth mystic yellow pagoda and the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in his hands. Finally, he roared at the sky. The power of the Taiji diagram, the power of the 2 pagodas, the power of the divine fire and immortal qi. At this moment, he completely erupted. The 2 seeds intertwined between his brows. Then, divine fire jumped on his body, and immortal qi danced in the air. Everyone watched nervously. Even the people from the other world, Heavenly Kings, sighed, looked extremely ugly. Were they just going to watch? Great Emperor Bailey and the others gritted their teeth. They were unwilling. At this moment, their bodies were covered in wounds. Although they weren't fatal, it would take them a few years or even decades to recover. More importantly, did they fail this time? Dao Chun had failed. At this moment, Dao Chun was in an extremely miserable state. Even his confidence had been defeated by his opponent. This was a ruthless slap to their faces. Those from the deity realm were also injured. After all, they had been fighting Higan for tens of thousands of years. The other party was too powerful. At that moment, all of them were injured. However, they didn't care at all. While recovering from their injuries, they stared at Lin Xian. "Little guy, you must succeed." This was what everyone was thinking. However, the virtual immortal said, "Don't rush. Don't attack. I understand what the saber immortal means." It was not easy to fuse with the power of a deity. Since ancient times, there had been many geniuses who had failed. How did that guy succeed? There was an extremely high chance that he would fail. If he failed, he would die. At that time, we won't have to do anything. Dao Qin also said, "My father cultivates an immortal art. At critical moments, he can't casually make a move." In that case, they could only wait. The people from the other world, Heavenly King, did not make a move. On the other side, those from the Supreme Palace also retreated. Their expressions were also cold. Everyone's gaze fell on Lin Xian. At that moment, the power of a deity on Lin Xian's body was constantly intertwining and spreading. Then it gradually fused. Boom! All of a sudden, his body split apart into two halves. A large amount of golden sacred blood instantly scattered across the sky. What was going on? Those from the Divine Union were extremely anxious. Even Lin Zhan, Lord Alcohol, and the others were frowning. Those from the Higan immortal realm laughed heartily. "You failed. I knew it. How could you succeed?" Those from the Supreme Hall laughed as well. Everyone in the universe was in an uproar. However, Lin Xian gritted his teeth and roared again. An extremely strange light shone in his eyes. The power of the ancient land surged out. Once, twice, thrice. Lin Xian's body actually shattered 5 times. Had they all failed? Everyone was in despair. Xuet Qi said, "Husband, stop. Choose one of them." However, Lin Xian still did not give up. Finally, on the 9th time, he roared into the sky. The sky was filled with lightning and thunder directly descended. Lin Xian's aura actually fused together. Had he succeeded? Those from the deity plane were excited. Everyone in the universe was stunned as well. Those from the Supreme Palace roared. How was this possible? The Grim Reaper's voice sounded, "Damn it!" What other secrets did he have? How could he recover so quickly? If it had been anyone else, they would have definitely died after the first time. However, he had survived 9 times. This made the Earth Immortals shocked and bewildered. Indeed, those from the Higan immortal realm were stunned. Even if he had taken an immortal pill, he could not be so powerful. What other secrets did this kid have? They did not know that the ancient land was Lin Xian's biggest secret. If he succeeded, he would be in danger. Not only could he go to the land of destiny, but more importantly, how powerful would he be after fusing with the power of the Earth Immortals? If the Divine Union had such an expert, the future situation would be much more complicated. He would not succeed. At this moment, Dao Qin spoke. Everyone was stunned. Then they suddenly thought of something and turned their heads. At the same time, those in the Eternal Land were also paying attention to this battle. When they saw Lin Xian's success, their eyes turned red. Damn it! At this moment, the heavenly punishment sword, which was standing in the depths of the Eternal Land, suddenly burst out with an extremely bright light. Then it actually soared into the sky and slashed out a ray of light towards the void of the universe. At this moment, those from the Higan immortal realm all prostrated themselves on the ground. They were extremely excited. Had the heavenly punishment sword been used? Heavens, the heavenly punishment sword was one of the 5 swords of the world. Moreover, it was the only one of the 5 swords of the world that was complete. Its might was far from what the other broken artifacts could compare to. Once the heavenly punishment sword was used, it would destroy the world. Sure enough, everyone in the universe was in despair. At this moment, they saw an endless vision of heaven and earth. A storm struck, a sea of fire spread, the earth cracked and the sky shattered. All kinds of natural powers of heaven and earth erupted. What was this? The end of the world? The destruction of the universe? They were all stunned. The Grim Reaper's pupils constricted. His hand of death enveloped the people from the Supreme Hall and brought them back quickly. At the same time, he exclaimed, "The power of the heavenly punishment. This is the true power of the heavenly punishment. It controls all the power of heaven and earth." It was not just the power of lightning. The power of the heavenly punishment sword was charging towards Lin Xian. Endless destructive power swept towards Lin Xian. Everyone was in despair. Lin Zhan, Lord Alcohol, the fighting god, and the others were all ready to attack. However, the moment they moved, those from the Higan immortal realm also moved. The virtual immortals and Turtle Hermit were not to be trifled with. The Grim Reaper was also ready to launch a sneak attack. The Saber Immortal, who was further away, also seemed to have the intention to attack. A slight move would affect the whole situation. Chapter 60, 141. The moment the heavenly punishment appeared, it shocked everyone. Everyone was dumbfounded. Even those earth immortals were facing a great enemy. It couldn't be helped. This was the complete heavenly punishment sword. Once it appeared, the universe would be destroyed. Was the Grand Supreme going to make a move? Lord Alcohol couldn't believe it. Would someone of that level make a move for someone who had just attained the Tao? Impossible, right? The battle god also snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, he grabbed the sea steadying needle in his hand. At the same time, thousands of rays of light erupted from his body. He wanted to make a move. However, the Saber Immortal, who was far away on the other side, condensed an even more powerful saber will and stared at the battle god. "Kid, use your great dragon sword to block it." Lord Alcohol roared angrily. Then he struck out his devouring sword. The black sword Qi pierced through the 9 heavens as if it wanted to swallow the world. At the same time, Lin Xian roared at the sky. He also struck out the great dragon's sword soul. A dragon's shadow bared its fangs and brandished its claws, sweeping across the world. An unparalleled power emerged from his body. At the same time, the light of his samsara sword erupted. At this moment, Lin Xian didn't hold back at all. This was because he felt a crisis, a peerless crisis. The heavenly punishment sword in the sky was really too terrifying. Before it fell, it could already destroy everything. Retreat, retreat quickly. At this moment, everyone retreated frantically. Even the Grim Reaper left with the people of the Supreme Palace. On the other side, Lin Zhan also retreated with the people of the Divine Union. At this moment, no one dared to stay. They fled to the desolate border of the universe. There was no other way. What kind of scene was this? Of the 5 swords of the world, except for the space-time sword, the other 4 had all appeared. Heavenly punishment, devour, great dragon, samsara. Moreover, it was a complete 1 against 3 incomplete ones. At this moment, the power that could destroy heaven and earth instantly swept out. Lin Xian felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. It was too powerful. Was this the complete heavenly punishment sword? If the great dragon sword was complete, would it be so terrifying? Lord Alcohol was also sent flying, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. His face became incomparably pale. A few cracks even appeared on his body. Retreat. The battle god also spoke in a deep voice. They had no choice. Since the Grand Supreme had made his move, they had no choice but to retreat. Lord Alcohol gritted his teeth. Damn it, how is this possible? The Grand Elder could not attack at will. Was he crazy? The Golden Lion King also retreated. He also said, maybe it's for the land of destiny. Or perhaps it was for the power of the gods. Even someone as strong as Taishang did not walk out of the Tao of Immortals. Instead, he chose the Immortal Tao. Even so, he couldn't do anything. Lord Alcohol gritted his teeth. It wasn't time yet. If he made a move, he wouldn't be afraid of the consequences. As they spoke, they quickly retreated with Lin Xian. The cracks on Lin Xian's body quickly healed. The power of the gods emanating from his body became even more mysterious. As for the heavenly punishment sword in the sky, it seemed as if it simply did not give the heavenly punishment sword the opportunity to escape. It actually descended once again. Damn it! Lord Alcohol and Lin Xian once again conjured 3 sword shadows and charged forward. However, in the next instant they were pushed back again. He was actually still alive. On the other side, the virtual immortal Master Rashi and the others were also gritting their teeth. The heavenly punishment sword had already appeared, but the other party was still alive. The 1,000 Mountain Emperors said, "There's nothing we can do. The other party has 3 of the 5 swords in the world." This was definitely something that defied the heavens to the extreme. Unfortunately, it was only a broken one. If it was complete, he wouldn't even dare to imagine it. So what if it was 3? It couldn't compare to a complete one. Master Rashi and the others clenched their fists. The heavenly punishment sword in the sky seemed to be about to descend again. Quite a few cracks had already appeared on Lin Xian's body. Lord Alcohol's aura had also become much weaker. There was nothing they could do. The pressure they were under was too great. As for the others, they didn't have time to make a move. This was because the experts on the other side were staring at them. Once they made a move, a huge battle would probably break out. At this critical moment, the black ring in Lin Xian's hand suddenly bloomed with light. Then it surged into the great dragon sword soul. The great dragon sword soul's body trembled. Then it roared towards the sky. An extremely terrifying dragon roar erupted. Boom! At this moment, it was as if the world had been overturned. A powerful force swept through the clouds. What happened? At this moment, everyone was stunned. They were able to sense that the unstoppable power had become exceptionally powerful. Did this kid still have it on him? The Essence Immortals were all stunned. Even Lin Xian was stunned. This black ring. He had been wearing this thing on his hand all this time. However, he still didn't know what use it had. This was discovered in the Slanted Moon Cave. Back then, in the Slanted Moon Cave, other than the fighting god, there was also a sleeping man. That man was sleeping on the Dragon Mountain. The ring had flown out from his hand. He didn't expect that this ring was actually related to the great dragon sword soul. At this moment, the power released by the great dragon sword soul was much stronger than before. It was as if it had completely recovered. At the same time, in the Slanted Moon Cave in the extreme path world of the Hidden Emperor Star, suddenly, a startling light burst forth from the sleeping man's body. It was a sword energy. It pierced through the clouds, swept across the universe, and arrived between heaven and earth. Its appearance caused the heavenly punishment sword in the sky to stop. At this moment, even the Earth Immortals felt their hair stand on end. What kind of sword energy was this? Why did it give them such a terrifying threat? Who else was there in the divine realm? On the other side was also silent. In the Supreme Palace, the Grim Reaper's expression was even uglier. At the same time, a voice sounded between heaven and earth. Xian Yuan. This voice was cold and heartless. At the same time, there was a trace of anger. It sounded like a god from the 9 heavens, shaking everyone until they vomited blood. The Essence Immortals, Master Rashi, and the others were all stunned. This was the voice of the Grand Supreme. The Grand Supreme was angry. Xian Yuan. Could it be him? The 2 of them seemed to have thought of something and sucked in a breath of cold air. The others were all guessing. Who is Xian Yuan? Even Lin Xian was stunned. Is it the sleeping man in white? Isn't it the Shimin Great Emperor? Did I guess wrong? Lin Xian was surprised. The black ring just now had caused such a change in the great dragon sword soul. At that moment, Lin Xian thought that the sleeping man was the first owner of the great dragon sword, the Shimin Great Emperor. But now it seemed that he wasn't. He looked at Lord Alcohol and the others and realized that they were also shocked. Only the war god frowned slightly. Was he going to make a move? It was a little forced for him to come out now. The sword energy that the man called Xian Yuan shot out circled around the great dragon sword soul. It made the great dragon sword soul even more terrifying. It was as if it had transformed into a peerless divine artifact between heaven and earth. It was terrifying to the extreme. At this moment, the magnificent voice sounded again. Xian Yuan, you are so severely injured that you can't even come out with your true body. You want to threaten me with just a sword energy? Ridiculous. The heavenly punishment sword descended once again. At this moment, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The universe was about to shatter. Everyone in the universe was terrified. If this sword slashed down, not many would be able to survive. Billions of living beings would be annihilated. In fact, those great emperors would disappear. Probably only a very small number of Earth immortals would survive. Chapter 6142. When he saw this scene, the war god frowned even more. Is Grand Supreme crazy? Sure enough, the power of the heavenly punishment sword erupted again. A primordial and mysterious aura suddenly appeared in some places in the heavens. That aura was abnormally terrifying, as if some ancient existence was awakening. In the celestial ground, this power erupted. In the Nine Nether, this power also erupted. In the hidden Emperor Star, and even in the true spirit world and the Yuhua immortal dynasty, this terrifying aura was also condensing. Everyone was shocked again. There was still a peerless expert who hadn't appeared yet. The fighting god raised his head and looked into the distance. He frowned and said, "You haven't recovered from your injuries back then, right? Are you going to start a decisive battle in advance for a Dao verifier?" As soon as these words came out, the people on the other side frowned, especially the Essence Immortals. Their expressions were extremely ugly. Although they had defeated the divine realm before, they didn't feel good either. Master Rashi had been sleeping for tens of thousands of years before he woke up. Even Grand Supreme was injured. It even affected Grand Supreme's realm. Had the Grand Elder recovered yet? The others didn't know. However, according to the Essence Immortal's own guesses, he shouldn't have recovered yet. Otherwise, the heavens wouldn't have ignored it, and the Nine Nether wouldn't have let it go. If Grand Supreme was willing to make a move, what could the divine realm do? However, Grand Supreme hadn't made a move yet. It was very likely that his injuries hadn't recovered yet. After all, the battle back then was too tragic. The great dragon sword was broken, the Samsara sword turned into pieces, and the devouring sword was also damaged. Only the heavenly punishment sword was intact. However, who knew the price Grand Supreme had paid? Little monkey, who gave you the courage to talk to me? A cold snort sounded between heaven and earth. Immediately after, boundless power swept towards the fighting god. The fighting god roared into the sky. After letting out a heaven-shaking roar, he waved the sea-calming divine needle and fiercely swung it forward. This strike was like the destruction of the universe. Everyone closed their eyes and retreated frantically. That terrifying nomological light made their eyes bleed. They didn't dare to look directly at it. After this strike, the fighting god retreated. The stone on his body actually cracked in some places. Father, San Qitian saw this scene and was extremely nervous. Lin Zhan, Lord Alcohol, and the others also had ugly expressions. They saw a few drops of golden blood falling from the cracks on the war god's petrified body. The golden blood fell into the void and suddenly evaporated, disappearing without a trace. To think that the Grand Supreme would be so terrifying, he frowned as well. He had never seen it before. In the battle with the Grand Supreme back then, he was killed by the Saber Immortal. Now it seemed that the Grand Supreme's strength should be above the fighting god. But how much stronger was he? He didn't know. The fighting god, however, snorted coldly. You really haven't recovered from your injuries. Your voice is much weaker than before. What happened to your imposing manner back then?" At this point, the battle god laughed heartily. His eyes of fire and gold became even more terrifying, as if they were going to pierce through the heavens and earth. As if challenged, the heavenly punishment sword in the sky became even more terrifying. Everyone's expression changed. "How strong is the Grand Elder?" Lord Alcohol sighed as a look of reluctance appeared in his eyes. Then he took out a pearl. It was sparkling and translucent, in the shape of a teardrop. What was this? The next moment he sighed and crushed the teardrop-shaped bead in his hand. Buzz! It seemed to break the chaos of the universe. The sky-devouring jar on Lin Xian's body instantly flew over, together with the teardrop-shaped bead. Then a boundless black vortex appeared. It devoured the heavens and the earth. An even more terrifying force erupted, shocking everyone once again. The power of the devouring sword also increased. "Impossible!" Master Rashi roared. "This wine sword immortal isn't that powerful." Although he was at a disadvantage in the previous battle with the wine sword immortal, it was impossible for the other party to kill him. But now, feeling this devouring aura, Master Rashi's hair stood on end. He felt that the other party could swallow him in one gulp. "Is the situation so bad?" "You actually need me to take action." A cold voice sounded between heaven and earth. Then a figure appeared. Everyone looked over and was stunned. This figure was abnormally blurry, but they could vaguely see that it was a woman. This woman stood in the void, surrounded by countless vortexes. Her figure was ethereal and illusory, as if she was in a dream. Looking at this figure, his eyes turned red. He shouted hoarsely, "Senior sister." "Sky-devouring, great emperor." The people from the Supreme Palace exclaimed. Then, countless people sucked in a breath of cold air. Others might not know the names of the virtual immortal and Master Rashi, but the name of the sky-devouring great emperor shook the universe. This was because when the other party rose to prominence, the sky-devouring great emperor killed countless experts in the universe. That era could be said to be an era of despair. The sky-devouring great emperor stepped on countless corpses to reach the peak, swept through the universe, and became a great emperor. She became a legend that lasted for millions of years. In the end, everyone seemed to have forgotten whether she was a man or a woman. When people talked about her, they could only say one thing: she's a ruthless person. Then they shook their heads, unwilling to say anything more. This was because these people were terrified when they mentioned the sky-devouring great emperor. They didn't expect that the sky-devouring great emperor, a peerless, ruthless person, would appear again. Lin Xian was also shocked. She's the sky-devouring great emperor? The creator of the sky-devouring jar. She was indeed ruthless to refine herself into an extreme weapon. After the sky-devouring great emperor appeared, she didn't say anything. She just unleashed the power of the devouring sword, even more terrifying. On the other side, Xian Yuan rushed out together with the great dragon sword. The two of them faced off against Tianfa. The golden light in the war god's eyes erupted. He was also eager to give it a try. Although he was injured previously, he wasn't afraid. "It's not enough." The Grand Supreme's voice sounded again. Many people on the other side heaved a sigh of relief. "That's great," as expected of their lord. "He's really strong." One had to know that when this ruthless person appeared, they were all stunned. Why would this guy appear? Didn't he disappear for tens of thousands of years? Why would he appear here? Although it was just an illusion, it was enough to make them fearful. One could imagine how many people's nightmares were the sky-devouring great emperor. Is it not enough? A faint voice sounded between heaven and earth. Then the Yi family's celestial emperor cauldron suddenly erupted with light. Everyone looked over. The people of the Yi family were stunned. Why is the celestial emperor cauldron erupting with light? The Gu family and the Phoenix clan were also shocked. The Yi family is so bold. They actually dared to resist at this time. However, the Yi family's patriarch was about to cry. How could they dare to fight? With their strength, they were not qualified to fight at all. This was not under their control. It was the celestial emperor cauldron that erupted on its own. Could it be? They thought of a possibility. Everyone quickly activated the power of their bloodline and rushed toward the celestial emperor cauldron. In the celestial emperor cauldron, a tall figure appeared. He stood tall like the 9 heavens' divine king. Chapter 61:43. As soon as the silhouette of the 9 heavens' God King appeared, everyone felt an endless pressure pressing down on them. Even those earth immortals felt as if they were facing a great enemy. Who was this person? It was a shocking scene. It was too shocking. They really didn't expect that Lin Xian's Tao confirmation would break out such a battle. Moreover, it also attracted countless peerless powerhouses. Some of them were legendary. Some of them they had never even seen before. However, that aura made them despair. This was a true era of legends. Others didn't know who this 9 heavens divine king was. However, the people of the Yi family were excited. In the next moment, they all knelt on the ground and shouted excitedly, "Patriarch!" What? Everyone was stunned. The Yi family's patriarch, could it be Yi Tiandi? Even the phantom of Yi Tiandi appeared. Yi Tiandi's phantom was tens of thousands of feet tall. He held the celestial emperor cauldron in his hand, making countless people tremble in fear. The earth immortals seemed to recall something terrifying and took 2 steps back in fear. On the other side, although Saber Immortal didn't appear, the saber light above his head shook violently. It seemed to carry a monstrous hatred. This hatred was for Yi Tiandi. This shocked everyone. Had this earth immortal suffered a loss in the hands of Yi Tiandi? Dao Qin and the others couldn't believe it. One had to know that Saber Immortal was a person who cultivated an immortal art, surpassing ordinary earth immortals. In the realm of the gods, the only one who could contend against him was the battle god. But now, Saber Immortal was so resentful of Yi Tiandi. He wondered what had happened back then. And the Yi family at this moment became the focus of everyone's attention. They once again erupted with glory. The Yi family was a great emperor family. But now, in this golden era, the Yi family seemed to have lost its glory. There was no other way. Now that the great emperors of tens of thousands of eras had gathered together, it could be said that there were many great emperors. There were even several earth immortals. So far, the Yi family had not produced a great emperor. They seemed to have lost the power and opportunity to compete. However, now that Yi Tiandi's phantom appeared, everyone knew that the Yi family's foundation was extremely terrifying. The celestial emperor cauldron, which had originally been an extreme weapon, seemed to have become an exceptional divine weapon in the hands of the 9 sky divine monarch. The attack had shattered the saber glow formed by the Saber Immortal. You actually appeared as well. You really didn't die. The Grand Supreme's voice became extremely angry. Since you're still alive, I'll send you to hell. I want to make sure that not a single bit of your aura is left in this world. The heavenly punishment sword had completely erupted. The fighting god roared, "Kill." He held the sea-steadying divine needle in one hand and charged toward 9 firmaments. At the same time, together with the great dragon sword, Xianyuan flew into the distance. Together with the devouring sword, the heaven-devouring great emperor charged out. The Yi family's celestial emperor Yi soared into the sky with the celestial emperor in his hand. A few peerless figures had joined forces. The other earth immortals did not fight because they could not withstand this power. Earth immortals were also divided into strong and weak. The ones in front were definitely extremely strong. At this moment, they could only watch the battle. After watching for a while, they were shocked. The Grand Supreme is too strong. On the deity realm's side, a few peerless earth immortals, including the legendary celestial emperor and the sky-devouring beast, had appeared. However, it turned out that they were only evenly matched. Moreover, according to the people on the deity realm side, the Grand Supreme was injured and had not even shown his true body. How terrifying would the Grand Supreme be at his peak? The people on the Divine Union's side also gasped. Could the great dragon's sword have been shattered by the Grand Supreme? Could the Samsara sword have been shattered by the Grand Supreme as well? What kind of divine being is this? Lin Xian's expression was extremely solemn. Is this the ruler of the Nirvana realm? He was indeed strong, unimaginably strong. However, so what? Now that his immortal power had been condensed, he believed that he could defeat the other party in the future. A martial artist had to have this kind of confidence. Lin Xian's eyes shone with an extremely determined light. He was prepared to continue fusing and breaking through to complete the Tao validation. Now that they had used all their trump cards, he absolutely could not allow failure. However, he still had to add fuel to the fire. At the thought of this, he took a deep breath and took out the longevity lamp and the emperor bone from the sword world. Then, with a push of his hand, he pushed these things into the distance of the universe and into the quintessential world. This was because he sensed that there was also an extremely ancient aura erupting from the Yuhua immortal dynasty. The longevity lamp and a few bones flew to the Yuhua immortal dynasty. The next moment, the mountains shook and a ray of light flew out. It was a huge seal that was being held by a white bone hand. It flew into the sky and joined the battle. There was a loud boom. The huge seal erupted and covered the sky. Everyone was once again forced to retreat. The Earth Immortals were also shocked. The Grim Reaper exclaimed, "Even the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty has joined in. You're courting death." The Grand Supreme's voice became even more furious. The next moment he shouted coldly, "No matter who comes, it's useless. Today I'll fulfill your wishes." The battle in the sky became even more terrifying. Lin Xian, on the other hand, didn't do anything. This was all he could do. Next, he had to break through with all his might. Holding the heaven-earth mystic yellow pagoda and the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda with both hands, Lin Xian roared angrily. The seed had completely fused into his glabella. The power of the immortals had become even more powerful in his body. "Kill this kid. Don't let him fuse with the seed." The essence immortal in the distance roared angrily and once again rushed towards Lin Xian with his men. Although they could not join the battle in the sky, they would kill Lin Xian. On the other side, the Grim Reaper also rushed over with his men. Kill! The Golden Lion King, Lord Alcohol, and the others all attacked. The battle erupted again. This battle was extremely terrifying and tragic. The sky was dyed red by endless blood. Half of the universe seemed to have turned into a sea of blood. A drop of blood from a powerhouse pierced through millions of worlds. In the sky, there were even drops of golden blood. However, it quickly disappeared. Dao Chen also held the sky sword and quickly rushed over. He slashed at Lin Xian. Die. It was this kid in front of him who had caused him to fail. How could he let his opponent succeed? Lin Xian did not resist at all. This was because he had reached the final critical moment. "Kid, fight me head-on if you have the guts." "Didn't you claim to be invincible? Aren't you high and mighty?" "What? You don't even have the courage to fight me." Dao Chun chased after Lin Xian as he spoke crazily. He wanted to affect Lin Xian's Dao heart. However, Lin Xian did not care at all. Xue Qi and the others rushed over, but they were sent flying by the saber and vomited blood. They were no match for him. "These are your women, right? I'll kill your women first. Let's see how you're going to prove your Dao." Dao Chan revealed a sinister smile. Hearing this, Lin Xian suddenly opened his eyes. There was an extremely cold light in his eyes. In the next moment, the power of the immortals in his body was completely fused. Chapter 6144. Lin Xian's aura changed. It wasn't divine fire or immortal energy. It was immortal energy. It was completely different from the others. That aura was simply too mysterious. It caused everyone to turn their heads to look at it one after another. Shuet, Chi, Morong Ching, and the others exclaimed, "Great, he succeeded." Dao Chen roared crazily, "Impossible, this is impossible." Damn it, why? No one had ever walked the path of immortals. There were countless experts in the Nirvana realm, but no one had ever succeeded. In fact, even the Grand Supreme only cultivated immortal energy. There were some crazy people in the universe who wanted to try. However, without exception, all of them failed. Life and death were gone, and there was no possibility of rebirth. Everyone believed that they could only choose one of the two paths. However, at that moment, there were people who had walked two different paths. The other party had actually succeeded in walking the path of immortals. How could Dao Chen believe it? At this moment, everyone in the heavens and myriad worlds was dumbfounded. They saw a mysterious and unfamiliar aura on Lin Xian's body. This aura was abnormally strong, and it instantly surpassed those ordinary great emperors. Had he succeeded? This was impossible, right? They had witnessed a miracle. Heavens, this guy was a monster. He could even succeed. Ha ha ha, this was great. The Black Mountain, the Crimson Dragon, and the others roared with laughter. He had finally succeeded. Above the 9 heavens, the battle god and the others were also laughing. Grand Supreme, did you see that? He had walked the path of immortals. Kill him, regardless of the cost. The Grand Supreme ordered. At this moment, the virtual immortal and the others trembled. Regardless of the cost. Kill. They roared. In an instant, several great emperors on the Divine Union's side were pierced, torn apart, and severely injured. They retreated quickly. However, they soon attacked again to protect Lin Xian. Lin Xian was the seed of their hope. Now that he had succeeded, they couldn't allow him to die. Although the deity realm was powerful and had several peerless weapons. So what? The Grand Supreme was too terrifying. Even if they joined forces now, they could only fight to a draw. If the Grand Supreme were to recover from his injuries one day, they would not be his match. Therefore, only Lin Xian's immortal path could create a miracle. Go to hell. Dao Chen also returned to his senses and slashed out with his blade. He did not hold back at all. His blood began to burn crazily. He had to kill the other party while he had just broken through. Boom! Lin Xian stared at Dao Chen and threw a punch. The punch turned into a streak of light and instantly pierced through Dao Chen's head. It was too fast, so fast that Dao Chen did not even have time to react. With a loud boom, the headless body was sent flying backward. Dao Chen could feel that he was about to die. What kind of power was this? He couldn't resist at all. One had to know that he could easily kill a great emperor. His strength was no weaker than a great emperor's. However, a single punch from his opponent was enough to seriously injure him. "Wanna run?" Lin Xian snorted coldly. He took a step forward and slammed his hand down. With a loud boom, Dao Chen was shattered into pieces. His heart and soul were both destroyed. A prodigy of a generation died under a single slap, just like that. The surrounding people were all stunned. Some of them even stopped in their tracks. There was a trace of fear in their eyes. Was this the power of an immortal? He killed a peerless prodigy with a single slap. One had to know that Dao Chen was no weaker than a great emperor. Didn't that mean that Lin Xian could kill a great emperor with a single slap? How terrifying was this power? Was this the immortal path? He had just proven his Tao. One had to know that the great emperors that appeared were not from this era. There were great emperors from tens of thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, and even millions of years ago. No matter how powerful their cultivation foundations were, they could not compare to someone who had just proven his Tao. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it, even if they were beaten to death. "Kill him! Hurry up and kill him!" The virtual immortal roared crazily. His entire face was ferocious. Master Rashi was the same. He rushed over without a care for his life. On the other side, Grim Reaper also left. They could no longer remain silent. The appearance of an immortal was too great a threat to everyone. They attacked. Lord Alcohol, Lin Jan, and the others naturally would not sit still and wait for death. They all attacked. At the same time, Saber Immortal, who was cultivating in seclusion on the other side, could not hold back anymore. In a certain treasure land, Saber Immortal opened his eyes. Had his son died? Unforgivable. In the next moment, he stood up. However, he did not go out. His cultivation had reached a critical juncture. He could not leave. However, he would not stand by and do nothing about Dao Chen's death. In the next moment, he roared angrily and cut off a head of black hair. His hair was also a part of his body. It also carried an incomparably sharp power. At this moment, the black hair transformed into a black saber. With his boundless killing intent, it pierced through the clouds and charged towards the battlefield. He swore that he would not stop until he killed Lin Xian. On Lin Xian's side, the more he fought, the braver he became. He clenched his fists, and an extremely sharp light burst out from his eyes. This was the power of an immortal. It was too powerful. With a boom, he punched towards Nether Sovereign. Nether Sovereign roared crazily and quickly retreated. How would he dare to fight alone? However, he was too slow. Lin Xian's speed surpassed his. In an instant, he was penetrated. Nether Sovereign was smashed into pieces. Ah! He let out a miserable cry. Help me stop him. However, at this moment, no one dared to face Lin Xian alone. Lin Xian punched again. This punch completely exploded. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The entire universe seemed to be about to collapse. The second punch landed. Nether Sovereign's body and soul were destroyed. Another one had died. Another great emperor had fallen. Everyone went crazy. This guy's combat strength was too heaven-defying. He was equivalent to a super great emperor, right? This guy had just proven his Tao, but he already had the combat strength of a super great emperor. This made the other great emperors stunned. Some of them had cultivated for hundreds of thousands of years, but they might not be able to become a super great emperor. Was the gap between people so big? Lin Xian was overjoyed. He tried to attack with all his strength. After saying that, he pulled out the immortal slaying sword, turned around and slashed. The long sword soared into the sky. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The surrounding people retreated one after another. Great Emperor Baiyu didn't have time to run. She was split in half by the sword, and her soul was instantly destroyed. The two halves of her body fell to the ground. One hit kill. Everyone went crazy. The faces of the people on the other side became incomparably ugly. The people on the other side of the God realm were also incomparably shocked. This was the power after fusing with the power of an immortal. He killed a great emperor with one sword. This was definitely a super great emperor. However, at this moment, a pitch-black long blade flew over from afar. On the long blade, there was endless killing intent. It pierced through several great emperor-level figures along the way. Even the Golden Lion King was sent flying by this saber strike, vomiting a large mouthful of blood. The target of this blade was Lin Xian. Chapter 60:145. It was a slash from the saber immortal. Dodge it. The Golden Lion King crazily roared at Lin Xian. The other people also became nervous. The saber immortal finally attacked Lin Xian. Lin Xian had killed Dao Qin in a domineering manner. How could the saber immortal let it go so easily? Damn it. Lord Alcohol also roared. He wanted to attack, but it was too late. Kid, run. He could only remind him. Now, Lin Xian's dragon sword soul rushed to the 9 heavens and fought with the Grand Supreme. Even his devouring sword was not with him. Lin Xian could only rely on himself. Lin Xian felt his hair stand on end. It was as if this slash could kill him. In the next moment he roared. He did not dare to be careless. Holding the immortal slaying sword with both hands, he crazily channeled the power of the immortals and slashed fiercely. At the same time, he opened the 6 paths of reincarnation and struck out the reincarnation sword fragment to protect his soul. Clang! An earth-shattering sound rang out. The black saber hit the immortal slaying sword and exploded with endless light. Then, the immortal slaying sword shook and cracks appeared on Lin Xian's hands. In the next moment, he flew out as if he was struck by lightning. He vomited blood, and the reincarnation sword fragment kept shaking. "Block it for me." He roared at the sky, and his Rinnegan erupted. At the same time, the power of the immortals also swept over his body. It seemed to condense into an immortal armor. The power of the ancient land also burst forth to heal his injuries. Boom! With a boom, he was hit on a star in the distance. It directly pierced through the star. The star world was torn apart. Dust flew and engulfed Lin Xian. What happened? Everyone was stunned as they turned their heads to look over. The people of the Supreme Palace said, "He was hit by the saber immortal head-on. He will definitely die. Ha 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 ha, great, this kid is dead. So what if you have attained the Tao? You will die in an instant. No one can compete with us. Not good." The eyes of the people from God's domain turned red. They rushed over as if they had gone mad. However, he was blocked by the people from the deity realm. "None of you will be able to pass." A cold voice sounded. These people once again engaged in a fierce battle. Boom! In the distant astral world, Lin Xian was constantly coughing up blood in the ruins. His face was pale. That was close. In that instant, he had almost died. There was nothing he could do about it. This was an attack from the Saber Immortal. The Saber Immortal was a terrestrial immortal. Even among the terrestrial immortals, he was an extremely terrifying existence. Not to mention emperors. Even super emperors would be dead for sure. Even the other Earth deities would be injured. It was no surprise that Lin Xian was injured. After all, the gap between the two of them was too big. However, what was surprising was that he didn't die. At this moment, he had shattered the earth with a single punch. As he walked out, boundless vitality burst forth from his body once again. He swallowed the divine spring of life as if it were plain water. In the next moment, he soared into the sky and charged back into the battlefield. Lin Xian, he had returned. At the front of the battlefield, everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. He didn't die. All the worlds were shocked. This was impossible. The people from the Supreme Palace were also stunned. The people from the other side roared, "This is an illusion. This is that kid's soul. Go to hell." How could they accept it? That was an attack from the Saber Immortal. Even a super emperor wouldn't be able to withstand it. However, this kid actually withstood it and didn't die. Since when could a great emperor who had just attained the Tao be able to contend against a terrestrial immortal? That was great. Lin Zhan, Lord Alcohol, and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Just now they were really scared to death. But fortunately it was a close call. The Lion King exclaimed, "Is this the power of an immortal? He has just attained the Tao and can already withstand the attack of a terrestrial immortal? Impossible, right?" This was too heaven-defying. The people from the Supreme Palace were also going crazy. How many realms were there between the two sides? At least 2 strands of immortal chi. Do you think immortal chi is cabbage? They might not be able to cultivate 1 strand of immortal chi even if they cultivated for 100,000 years. This was definitely the difference between heaven and earth. The power of an immortal. It must be the power of an immortal. Damn it, a person who walked the path of an immortal was actually so terrifying. He wouldn't immediately become a god, right? Saber Immortal, I'll remember you. One day I'll kill you. And the other side will definitely trample you under our feet. Lin Xian's eyes erupted with an extremely cold light. Boom! At this moment, the Grand Supreme who was fighting in the distance seemed to have sensed it. Immediately, he waved the heavenly punishment sword and slashed a sword light from afar. Between heaven and earth, red lightning filled the air. This was a true talent. All the power was aimed at Lin Xian. Lin Xian had successfully attained the Tao and become a great emperor. But at this moment, he was still enveloped by endless lightning. This kind of heaven and earth phenomenon was extremely terrifying. Everyone dispersed. No one dared to approach Lin Xian again. Get lost. Lin Xian roared towards the sky and waved the immortal slaying sword. The power of an immortal erupted completely and swept across the surroundings to resist the terrifying heavenly punishment. At the same time he attacked again. He had only killed 3 elites previously, and it wasn't enough. Buzz! A huge hand reached out and grabbed one of the Grand Emperors from the Permitha heavenly shore and brought him over. The great emperor trembled. After entering, he was immediately pierced by lightning. Then, a sword split his body apart, and the power of an immortal destroyed his soul. Another great emperor had died. This guy could instantly kill a great emperor. The other party's divine power was already extremely terrifying. Coupled with the heavenly punishment, who could be a match for him? Lin Xian resisted the heavenly punishment and quickly rushed over to the Supreme Hall. 2 great emperors fell. Then he killed his way to the other side. A few more great emperors fell. In a short time, 10 great emperors died at the hands of Lin Xian. This was a glorious battle record. Everyone's eyes were filled with infinite fear. That's great. On the other hand, the people of the Divine Union were in high spirits. Lin Xian was overjoyed. At this rate, when he became a supreme great emperor, he wouldn't have to fear an earth immortal. He could fight with a real earth immortal. He had to continue to improve his strength. Buzz! Lin Xian was about to attack when suddenly his body shook and his glabella split open. A sense of crisis erupted. He stopped and coughed up a mouthful of blood. What was going on? The surrounding people were all stunned. Was someone ambushing him? Who was it? Murong Qingqing and the others looked around nervously. Even the Empress was quickly noticed by them. To be able to injure Lin Xian, it had to be at least a supreme great emperor, right? However, after looking around, they didn't find anyone. Lin Xian's face turned extremely pale. He frowned and said, "What's going on? Is the power of an immortal unstable?" Just now, no one had ambushed him. It was the power of an immortal in his body that suddenly moved and caused his body to split open. This stunned him. The power of an immortal was terrifying, but now it seemed like it wasn't completely stable. What was going on? He looked around. However, the people of the Divine Union also frowned. Unstable? Lord Alcohol, Lin Zhan, and the others said as they fought. No one has walked this path before, so we don't know. Kid, do you know? In our opinion, you don't even have a 30% chance of winning. We even thought that we would let you walk the path of the divine path, but we didn't expect you to succeed. Since ancient times, in billions of years, I'm afraid you are the first one. It's really unprecedented. However, the problem you encountered in your cultivation, no one can solve it for you. Chapter 60-146. After Lin Xian heard this, he frowned. It seemed that he was in trouble. The power of the immortals was unstable. Why? Was it not fused well? Or was it because of other reasons? However, in the eyes of others, being able to fuse was already a heaven-defying thing. One had to know that even the Grand Supreme had not succeeded, but Lin Xian had. No, he had to solve it. Lin Xian furrowed his brows tightly. The power of the immortals shook just now, causing him to be injured. It would be best if he didn't die after a few more hits. He had to solve this problem. But what should he do? Now that the battle was so intense, could he make a move now? He didn't know. Lord Alcohol said, "There is a way, the land of destiny." While blocking Master Rashi's attack, he quickly sent a voice transmission to Lin Xian. "Go to the land of destiny. You are the first to attain the Tao." You are qualified to go to the land of destiny. There, you can defy the heavens and change your fate. Perhaps after changing your fate, your problem with the power of the immortals will be resolved. There was such a thing. Lin Xian dodged the Higgins attack and quickly retreated. At this moment, he focused on defense. In his mind, he kept thinking, the land of destiny, one of the Jiutian Shidi. However, it was said to be extremely mysterious. People from the outside couldn't enter at all. It was much more difficult than entering the netherworld. As long as one could open the 9 underworlds, it would be fine. However, the conditions to enter the land of destiny were extremely harsh. It wasn't a matter of opening, but after the deity ground descended, only the first to attain the Tao could enter. This was also the reason why the Higgin was so crazy before. Now, in the entire universe, perhaps only Lin Xian was qualified to enter. As for the land of destiny, could it be opened like the netherworld? Lin Xian didn't know at all. Kid, hurry up and go to the land of destiny now. Firstly, it will solve your problem. Secondly, there is one more thing. What is it? Lin Xian asked. Lord Alcohol said, find someone, find someone. You must find him. This is very important to our divine realm. Only when we find that person will our God realm's subsequent forces appear. Only then would he be able to truly contend with Bai, and Lin Xian felt immense pressure. Could he really compete with Higgin? Don't look at how they are evenly matched right now. However, the current Grand Supreme had not even revealed his true body. He was fighting them across the boundless void. As for the Saber Immortal, he did not appear either. It could be imagined that there were still many experts in Bayan who couldn't come out. What was the reason? However, if those people were to really come out, they would likely not be able to stop them. He had to solve this problem. Lin Xian took a deep breath and said, Alcohol Lord, who are you looking for? To be honest, I don't know the details, but his name used to be... What's his name now? No one knew. What does he look like? No one knew. However, he should be in the land of destiny. Lin Xian was dumbfounded. How were they going to find him? Lord Alcohol didn't say anything else. Instead, he quickly sent a voice transmission to the distant battle god. After the battle, God heard this. He waved his sleeve, and a ray of light quickly flew over. When it arrived in front of Lin Xian discovered that it was actually a bottle. Inside the bottle was golden sand. A bottle of sand. What was this? Lord Alcohol said, This is Yi's token. The rest is up to you. After all, none of us have been to the land of destiny. I understand. Lin Xian took the bottle of golden sand and put it away. He took a deep breath. According to Lord Alcohol, he should be able to summon the land of destiny. In the next moment, he closed his eyes. Everyone, please help me stop him. In a while, I will summon the land of destiny. After saying that, Lin Xian began to sense with all his might. Not good. Master Rashi, the Essence Immortal, and the others who were fighting in the distance exclaimed, Grand Supreme, please help. He might be going to the land of destiny. The Grand Supreme, who was fighting, shouted coldly, Don't even think about going anywhere. After saying that, he slashed down with his sword and forced all the Earth Immortals who were fighting with him to retreat. Then the sword, which was imbued with boundless power, went straight for Lin Xian. I sensed it. Lin Xian suddenly opened his eyes and said to the people around him, Retreat quickly. Buzz. Just as he finished speaking, a spatial power suddenly appeared on Morong Qingqing, Xueqi, and the others, taking them away quickly. The people of the Gu family in the distance turned pale. Some of the elders even spat out blood. Gu Santong was the same. His body was swaying. It was too close. He almost failed. Previously, it was these people of the Gu family who used spatial magic to take away Morong Qingqing, Xueqi, and the others. However, they did not teleport Lin Xian because a mysterious power appeared on Lin Xian's body. It was also a spatial power. It seemed that the other party was about to leave. In the sky, the heavenly punishment sword slashed down. The starry sky was completely shattered. Except for Lin Xian, there was no one else. Could it succeed? Lin Zhan became nervous. The fighting god, Lord Alcohol, and the others also looked very serious. In the next moment, the endless power of the heavenly punishment erupted. Lin Xian's figure was completely enveloped. At that moment, Lin Xian let out a low cry. His body was instantly teleported away by a surge of spatial power. Boom! Boom! His figure disappeared. The power of the heavenly punishment had completely pierced through the starry sky, forming a pitch-black hole. Lin Wuti was dead? No one knew. However, in their opinion, even an Earth Immortal would not be able to survive after being hit by the heavenly punishment sword. Lin Wuti had just attained Tao. How could he still be alive? Even Lin Zhan, Lord Alcohol, and the others were not sure. However, at this moment, the fighting god said, "I saw him leave with my fiery eyes of truth." That's great. Lin Zhan and the others heaved a sigh of relief. However, the fighting god said, "No, it's not over yet. We can't let others discover this. We have to continue fighting, and we have to fight even more crazily." Understood. Lin Zhan and the others nodded. "Everyone, fight with me." Then these people from the divine realm charged over again. A great battle broke out. All the people in the universe were terrified. Could it be that Lin Wuti had really died? This battle was earth-shattering. It lasted for several years, and both sides suffered losses. Of course, Lin Xian no longer knew all of this. Lin Xian was teleported away at the most critical moment. However, he was still swept by some of the power of the heavenly punishment. He spat out large mouthfuls of blood, and many cracks appeared on his body. Fortunately, he had the ancient land. The power of the heavenly spring of life inside surged out and began to heal his injuries. Just like that, he seemed to be drifting in the darkness. After an unknown period of time, he finally saw light. After leaving the spatial passageway, was at the place of destiny? He didn't know what kind of place it was. Among the 9 heavens and 10 earths, he had already seen the heavenly land and the 9th underworld. They both had incomparably mysterious powers. Moreover, there were many families, sects, and great emperors in the 9th underworld. After all, there was no restriction on attaining Tao in the 9th underworld once every 10,000 years. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian's figure flickered, and he rushed out. This time, he had to defy the heavens and change his fate. He had to completely obtain the power of an immortal. Chapter 60, 147. Lin Xian rushed out of the passage. However, when he arrived, he still couldn't see clearly what was going on in the land of destiny. He felt the power of the immortals in his body throbbing fiercely. This caused him to be injured again. What was going on? Lin Xian was stunned. Logically speaking, he should have suppressed his injuries before. However, why did he feel that the power of the immortals seemed to be even stranger after coming to the land of destiny? In that instant, Lin Xian realized that he couldn't mobilize his power. He could only say that the land of destiny was too strange. Then he turned into a shooting star and fell down. Although Lin Xian couldn't use the power of the immortals for the time being, he still had the power of the immortals. Therefore, he landed on the ground like a bright ray of light. On this day, the warriors in the endless cities and countries below all looked up at the sky. Look, what's that? What a beautiful shooting star. Make a wish. What shooting star? A powerhouse roared. Don't you feel a mysterious power from above? We've never seen this mysterious power before. Go! There's a treasure falling from the sky. All of a sudden, all the powerhouses in this space moved out. Soon, they came to a valley, but no one dared to go in. Because at this moment, the valley was torn apart and the ground was split open, forming an endless abyss. The sky was also broken, and the mysterious power inside was circling around. It made everyone's hair stand on end. After some elders came, They carefully investigated. Then they said, "Don't act rashly. This kind of treasure falling from the sky must be dangerous. Wait until all the powerhouses are here." More and more powerhouses gathered outside. In the valley, under the ground, Lin Xian muttered, "Damn it, this place is too strange." What kind of place was the land of destiny? Why did he feel that his injuries had worsened after coming here? Of course, the worsening of his injuries wasn't fatal. However, Lin Xian couldn't move now. Moreover, he felt that there was a huge spirit vein below. However, as he landed, it was directly smashed into pieces. At this moment, the power of the spiritual veins was converging towards him. Gradually, it enveloped him and formed a huge statue of the spirit vein. "Forget it. I'll try to recover my strength first." Lin Xian closed his eyes and began to recover silently. Meanwhile, more and more people came from outside. A tall expert stomped his foot, causing the heavens to crumble and the earth to crack. A bladesman with a long saber on his back sent out a saber strike that destroyed the sky. There was also a swordsman with a long sword on his back. In short, all kinds of experts had come. There were even some demonic beasts that were extremely terrifying. There were so many experts. When the young people in the distance saw this scene, they exclaimed in shock. Some of the elders sighed, "It's over." With so many experts here, we have no chance at all. Forget it. Those who aren't from the top clans and sects shouldn't participate. That's right. If you're not a top-notch expert, scram. It was a tall expert. With a stomp of his foot, a terrifying force spread in all directions. Obviously, the peerless experts in front were going to join forces to seal off the entire valley. What kind of treasure is it? A man with a long sword on his back walked over. His name was Jian Jingyan. His figure was very slender. Dressed in white, he was extraordinarily handsome. Among everyone, he was very eye-catching. Therefore, as soon as he appeared, countless people turned their heads to look at him. What a terrifying sword chi! His sword technique is about to reach the phenomenal level. It's said that he's about to become a sword emperor. What? He's about to prove his Tao. So fast! I remember that he's very young. Countless voices of discussion could be heard. Jian Jingyan looked around and said, "Almost everyone is here. Let's do it." After saying that, he pulled out his long sword and slashed forward. This was a peerless sword strike. With supreme power, it split heaven and earth. However, the mysterious aura in front was too powerful. Jingyan was actually forced back. His face was pale as he roared, "Why aren't you doing it?" Seeing this, the others said, "Do it." Those who came here were all quasi-emperors. They only had one goal, and that was to prove their Tao. The land of destiny was different from the starry sky of the universe. It was somewhat similar to the land of the ninth underworld. There was no suppression of the great Tao. As long as one had the strength, he could break through and prove his Tao. Of course, even so, it was as difficult as ascending to heaven to prove one's Tao. At this moment, these people had been called quasi-emperors for thousands of years, but they had no hope of proving their Tao. Now that a treasure had fallen from the sky, how could they miss it? These people quickly attacked, shaking the sky and the earth in front of them. The others retreated one after another. At the same time, more people came from afar. These people should have come from an even further space. Among them, a war chariot stopped. There were many figures standing inside. These people were all dressed in black, and the one leading them was a man with long, flowing hair. He was quite handsome. At this moment, he was holding a leaf in his mouth. He narrowed his eyes and said, "Good stuff. This time I must get it." However, the elders around him said, "Don't do anything rash. Don't you see that there are so many experts in front? This time, without my order, you are not to act rashly." "Old man, don't worry. It's just a group of quasi-emperors. I don't care about them." Hearing this, the surrounding people were also surprised. They all turned their heads to look. Was some unparalleled expert here? Could it be a great emperor? However, when they saw that the youth was only a quasi-emperor, they frowned. This guy was just an ordinary quasi-emperor. What was there to be arrogant about? That's right, this youth was 6-crown king. However, he was not strong enough here. This was because 8-crown king was extremely terrifying among quasi-emperors. Even so, these experts working together could not enter. Boom! In the distance, a great emperor came. After this great emperor came, he showed off his peerless brilliance. He threw out a palm in the air and fell. Retreat quickly. Those people all retreated frantically. Although they were top prodigies and unparalleled experts, they were all ants below the great emperor. They did not dare to fight against the great emperor. In the sky, a large golden palm fell. It was blocked in midair. This shocked countless people. What kind of treasure was in the valley? It could even block the power of a great emperor. The golden palm, great emperor, frowned tightly. His palm was even more terrifying than an extreme weapon. This was because he had refined his palm into a weapon. However, it was still useless. What was that treasure? An extremely sharp light burst forth from his eyes as he looked down. He wanted to see clearly what was going on. When he touched the power of an immortal, he suddenly screamed and his eyes bled. The golden palm, great emperor, kept retreating. The surrounding people were all stunned. Even a great emperor was injured. Could it be that there was something more terrifying than a great emperor inside? Could it be a divine item? Some people said in horror. When the others heard this, they gasped. A divine item! A divine item fell from the sky. Chapter 6148. The Golden Palm Emperor sucked in a cold breath. A divine item? His eyes shone with an even colder light. He wanted it even more. His path to becoming a great emperor was not easy. At this moment, 3 more figures came from afar. They were all great emperors. After the 3 great emperors landed, they did not immediately attack, because they could see that the Golden Palm Emperor was injured. Let's join forces, one of the elders said. The others nodded. The 4 great emperors joined forces and walked out. They attacked again, and a terrifying great emperor power erupted, sweeping across the world. Everyone retreated to a place extremely far away. Jian Jingyun and the others were unable to advance any further. Damn it! With the great emperors here, they had no chance at all. However, at this moment, the handsome man with a smile walked out from the war chariot. He said, "It's time for me to show my strength." The elder beside him was so angry that his face darkened. He slapped him on the head. "Bastard, do you want to die? For great emperors, I can't protect you." The black-robed man smiled. "Don't worry, I'm called Chongqing. How can I die so easily? Trust me." Chongqing Qin's eyes shone with a cold light. Then he turned into a stream of light and rushed over. When the others saw this scene, they were all stunned. Who is this person? Does he want to die? I know that he's Chongqing Qin of the great Qin family. He's an expert at courting death. It's said that he runs wherever there's danger. What? Chongqing Qin? So it's him. If it's him, then it's not strange. The surrounding people discussed animatedly, because in their country, some people were very famous. For example, Jian Jingyan was a sword genius. Some people were famous because they courted death, such as Chongqing Qin. 6-crown king strength was also outstanding. However, compared to Jian Jingyan, he was far inferior. However, this guy could always turn danger into safety. It was said that once he offended a great emperor and came back alive. Therefore, he also became a legendary figure. However, this time, there were 4 great emperors in front of him. Could this guy succeed? When they came to the front, there was no one here. The people behind did not dare to approach. In front of him, the power of the great emperor destroyed everything. Immortal Qin took a deep breath. Then he actually began to dig a hole in the ground. Then he made his way through the ground. At the same time, he took out a jade pendant and placed it in his mouth. Escape! His figure disappeared once again. When he reappeared, he was already in the valley. The people outside didn't know because they couldn't see clearly. The 4 greater heavenly martial emperors ignored him. After all, Qin Chongsheng was just a quasi-emperor. If these great emperors knew about this, they would definitely be shocked. After Immortal Qin entered, he wasn't too happy either, because he felt a tremendous pressure. He then took out many treasures from his ring of holding. Some broken shields, some bone fragments, and some broken cloaks. He wore all of them on his body, and his defense was tight. Then he struggled to walk forward. Where did this fellow find these things? He had actually managed to reach the front. When Qin Chongsheng saw the enormous spirit vein statue in front of him, he was stunned. There was actually someone inside the statue. Qin Chongsheng was incomparably shocked. Who was it? Ancient people. Furthermore, he was an ancient expert. Could it be that he was already dead? Buzz. At this moment, Lin Xian suddenly opened his eyes because he felt that someone had come. In fact, he had already noticed the few greater heavenly martial emperors above when they were fighting. However, he couldn't move now, so he didn't pay attention to them. Moreover, in his opinion, these greater heavenly martial emperors couldn't enter at all, because they were just ordinary greater heavenly martial emperors who had only cultivated a divine flame or immortal energy. And what he cultivated was the power of immortals. Although he had just confirmed his Tao, ordinary greater heavenly martial emperors were no match for him. Originally, he wanted to quietly recover here. However, he didn't expect that someone could actually come, and it was actually just 6 Crown King. This made him frown even more. Outside, Qin Chongsheng was even more shocked. Oh my God, he didn't die. He turned around and ran. Inside the crystal, Lin Xian's face darkened. What did this guy mean? Saying that he was a zombie. What kind of joke was this? Right now, he couldn't use his strength. Otherwise, he would definitely slap the other party to the ground. Qin Chongsheng ran for a while. Seeing that the other party didn't chase after him, he boldly returned. Then it circled around the crystal and spun around it non-stop. This guy was quite handsome, and from the looks of it, he was so young. He shouldn't be an ancient person, right? Who are you? Are you from the land of destiny? At this moment, a voice sounded in Qin Chongsheng's ear. Qin Chongsheng was shocked. You can still speak. You really didn't die. Lin Xian snorted. Nonsense, of course I didn't die. I'm asking you, is this the land of destiny? Qin Chongsheng was stunned. Dare I ask, brother, which mountain are you from? You don't even know where you are? Or are you someone from outside the land of destiny? Impossible. The people outside couldn't come in at all. Qin Chongsheng shook his head. This was common sense. Lin Xian had no choice. He couldn't say that he really came from outside, right? If this news spread out, the peerless experts of this land of destiny would probably make a move. Who knew if there were any land immortals here? No matter how strong he was now, he was no match for a land immortal. Moreover, he wasn't in a good state right now. He could only make up a reason. I've been cultivating for tens of thousands of years, so I'm not sure now. You've been cultivating for tens of thousands of years? I'm dying of laughter. Who exactly are you? Where did you come from? What's your name? Lin Xian said in a deep voice. I'm an immortal. You can call me Mad God. Mad God, you're arrogant enough, even more arrogant than me. Qin Chongsheng curled his lips. Of course. He didn't believe that an immortal could do this. What kind of joke was this? However, it was possible that the other party had been sleeping for tens of thousands of years, because such a thing had indeed happened before. Therefore, he said, Of course this is the land of destiny. Have you become stupid from sleeping? Lin Xian was extremely surprised when he heard this. It really was the land of destiny. It seemed that he had come to the right place. However, why was his condition getting worse and worse after coming to this land of destiny? Didn't they say that the land of destiny could defy the heavens and change fate? Shouldn't he have fully recovered by coming here? Lin Xian began to ask again. After a while he fell silent. According to Qin Changsheng, the land of destiny could indeed defy the heavens and change fate, but it was very difficult. It could be said that it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. In the land of destiny, there might not be one in hundreds of millions of people who wanted to defy the heavens and change fate. Of course, there were also people who succeeded. Otherwise, others wouldn't want to change fate so crazily. However, this difficulty was beyond Lin Xian's imagination. Moreover, Lin Xian also learned another piece of news. That was the land of destiny. Although it could defy the heavens and change fate, it was more according to fate. At first, Lin Xian didn't understand what it meant. However, when Qin Changsheng gave an example, Lin Xian understood. Qin Changsheng said, for example, a person's talent is limited. He will be a saint for his whole life and can't become a quasi-emperor. If he had a heaven-defying opportunity outside, he might really be able to break through and become a quasi-emperor. However, it was impossible in the land of destiny. Chapter 6149. Hearing Qin Changsheng's words, Lin Xian was stunned. How was that possible? If one's fate couldn't be changed, was there no chance at all? Wasn't that too despairing? One had to know that in the 10,000 worlds, those powerhouses risked their lives to find all kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Wasn't it just to fight for that trace of possibility? But here, there wasn't even a trace of possibility. Wasn't that too sad? Lin Xian was very surprised, but the next moment he frowned. If there wasn't even a trace of possibility, then what were the 4 great emperors fighting for outside? What were the surrounding powerhouses looking at? Shouldn't they be indifferent? Because even if you got the heavenly materials and earthly treasures, your fate was destined and you couldn't break through. Then what was there to fight for? This guy was lying to me. Lin Xian stared at Qin Changsheng, and an extremely cold light burst out of his eyes. You're not big, but you have a lot of ideas. How dare you lie to me? Lin Xian's eyes bloomed, and the power of the immortals pressed down. Qin Changsheng was immediately pressed to the ground. He was dumbfounded. This guy's power was so strong, even more terrifying than the great emperors. Who the hell was this guy? Soon he came back to his senses and said, I didn't lie to you. If you don't believe me, go out and ask. Anyone else would have the same answer. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Then tell me, what are these great emperors fighting for? According to your theory, these great emperors can't break through even if they get the treasures. Qin Changsheng snorted angrily and said, You bastard, did you sleep too much? They can't break through, but they can give the treasures to the Fane of Destiny. The Fane of Destiny? Lin Xian frowned. What is that? Qin Changsheng was too lazy to care. Why? Doesn't he know anything? He explained. The Fane of Destiny is a place that can defy the heavens and change one's fate. In the place of destiny, one's fate has been decided by the heavens. However, as long as you can get the help of the Fane of Destiny, you can defy the heavens and change your fate. Someone had done it before, which was why others were so crazy. If you wanted to change your fate, of course, you had to ask the Fane of Destiny for help, but the conditions were extremely harsh. Endless amounts of heavenly materials and earthly treasures were needed. Some people as strong as great emperors might not be able to take out such a treasure. Therefore, when they saw other treasures, they would try to take them and give them to the fortune shrine. Although it wasn't enough to change their fate, it might be able to change their luck. For them, this was extremely good. Was the Fane of Fate the one who controlled fate? Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. In other words, if he wanted to change his fate, he would need the help of the fortune shrine. How many heavenly materials and earthly treasures did they need? Lin Xian asked. One must know that he had the ancient land of eternity with him. If there was really no other way, he could just dig out 2 treasures from there and give them to the other party. That way, he would be able to completely consolidate his immortal force. However, but Qin Changsheng said, it might not necessarily be a heavenly treasure. Like I said before, the fortune shrine's conditions are very harsh. Sometimes it was for treasures, and sometimes it was for secret manuals. Sometimes you are asked to do something, but no matter which one it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. All right, I've said what I needed to say. Next, I'll dig you out. I'm going to give you to the Imperial Sword Villa. Then, I'll exchange you for 2 sword spirits from the Imperial Sword Villa and give you to the Fortune Shrine. You're too weird. If you give it to the Fortune Shrine directly, I'm afraid they won't accept it. Hearing this, Lin Xian's little face turned black. This guy, did he treat him as a treasure? This Qin Changsheng was indeed bold. He was a little expert at courting death. Even in the face of the immortal force, he was not afraid at all. This guy took out another broken battle armor, which was full of cracks. However, Lin Xian was surprised when he saw it. This battle armor was extraordinary. There was an extremely mysterious power on it. It was probably something that belonged to a peerless master when it was in good condition. The Fortune Shrine was indeed mysterious. It seemed that he had to find a way to recover and then go to the Fortune Shrine. He wanted to see what kind of conditions the Fortune Shrine would give him. The 4 great emperors outside were fighting earth-shattering. At this time, Qin Changsheng broke out of the ground. He took Lin Xian away from the battlefield. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they all exclaimed, "Look, what's that?" Someone came out from the ground. Isn't that Qin Changsheng? He actually didn't die. He actually came out alive from the attacks of the 4 great emperors. It was too unbelievable. As expected of a legendary figure, he was really good at courting death. What is he holding in his hand? What a terrifying aura. Retreat. Could it be that he dug up a divine item that fell from the sky? This guy's luck was too good. Had his luck been changed by the Fortune Shrine? Why was it so powerful? Countless people were envious. If this guy offered this divine item to the Fortune Shrine, would it change his fate? At that time, it wouldn't be a problem for him to become a great emperor. In the midst of the discussion, Qin Changsheng ran even faster. Meanwhile, the 4 martial monarchs were infuriated when they saw this. They risked their lives to get a treasure, but in the end, it was snatched by a little ant. Unforgivable. Extremely terrifying immortal qi erupted from the 4 great emperors. Terrifying immortal techniques were about to erupt. The expressions of the spectators changed. Run for your lives. When the great emperors are angry, millions of corpses will fall. The faces of the people of the great Qin family turned green. This guy was really courting death. "Elder, what should we do?" The leading old man said, "What else can we do? Run, don't worry about that guy. That guy's life is very tough." After saying that, he led his family members and quickly fled. "Little ant, stay for me." The great emperor roared and slapped out with his palm. The golden palm covered the sky and the earth, descending from the sky. This attack was impossible for anyone below the great emperor to block. Qin Changsheng also roared crazily. He drilled into the ground again. At the same time, the battle armor on his body shone brightly to resist. After that attack, he was sent flying and vomited large mouthfuls of blood. However, he didn't die. He continued to flee with Lin Xian. Lin Xian was also surprised. This guy's life was really tough. One had to know that great emperors cultivated immortal qi. The power of the divine flame completely surpassed the laws. Those below the great emperor couldn't block it. This guy actually didn't die, even in the myriad worlds or even in the Nirvana realm and the immortal land. Those were all extremely top geniuses. Although the fate of the land of destiny was already decided, some geniuses seemed to be more interesting than the land of 9 serenities. The Golden Palm Great Emperor was angry and attacked again. The other 3 great emperors also attacked. Qin Changsheng's injuries were even more serious. His body was shattered and many of his bones were broken. However, he still didn't die. One had to admit that this guy's life was really tough. Lin Xian also teased. Qin Chongqing spat out a mouthful of blood and said, "What's the use of this? I'm just not dead. What I want is to become stronger. I want to become a great emperor, so I must go to the Temple of Destiny." Interesting. I also want to go to the Temple of Destiny, so I'll help you. Speaking of this, Lin Xian looked around. He channeled the power of an immortal. A mysterious power enveloped the surroundings. At this moment, the power of the 4 great emperors erupted. It directly enveloped Qin Chongqing and Lin Xian. Chapter 6150. When the people outside saw this scene, they sucked in a breath of cold air. It's over. That Qin Chongqing is dead for sure. Being surrounded by 4 great emperors, no matter how lucky he was, he would definitely die. The expressions of the people of the great Qin family also changed. Did that kid really court death? They were helpless. They were no match for 4 great emperors at all. The 4 great emperors attacked Qin Chongqing. Their control of power was perfect. They definitely wouldn't hurt the divine object. Qin Chongqing originally thought that he was dead for sure. However, when he found that Lin Xian's power on his body could actually block the attacks of the great emperors, he was stunned. He was stunned. "Senior, you're not really in existence above the great emperor, are you?" At this moment, he even changed the way he addressed him. Lin Xian smiled. "I told you that I'm the mad god, but you didn't believe me. Previously, I killed a great emperor with 1 sword and a supreme with 1 punch. It was very easy. The past is like smoke. It's better not to mention it." Lin Xian sighed. After hearing this, Qin Chongqing's eyes almost popped out. What? Killing a great emperor with 1 sword? Heavens, what kind of method is this? Thinking of this, he immediately put on a smile. As he ran, he said, "Senior, I was rude before. Please forgive me. Senior, you lack a disciple. What do you think of me? I'm very tough. I'll be your disciple. Take me to the Temple of Destiny. I can teach you a peerless divine ability or 2. Lin Xian said, "What do you think?" Qin Chongqing said, "Senior, you might have slept for too long. You don't know the rules of the Temple of Destiny, right? With my current ability, I'm not qualified to go to the Temple of Destiny." Lin Xian, F***ck, you trash. Lin Xian was speechless. Feelings were a waste of time. In that case, he still had to rely on himself. He had to recover his mobility. Thinking of this, Lin Xian said, "Do you know if there's a very special place here?" "It's the kind of place that has endless power." Qin Chongqing said, "Yes, but that place is very dangerous." "It's okay, take me there." Immortal Qin hurriedly increased his speed, bringing Lin Xian with him. The place they were going to was called the Glacier Land. The 4 great emperors were all stunned. Immortal Qin didn't die. They chased after him in a frenzy. This brat was too strange. He definitely couldn't let him escape. The people in the distance also exclaimed, as expected of a legendary figure, "He's still alive." 5 days later, Immortal Qin was seriously injured. Not a single place on his body unharmed. However, he was still alive and kicking. He looked ahead and said, "Senior, look, we've arrived at the Land of Glaciers. There is an extremely terrifying power here." Actually, even without Qin Chongqing saying it, Lin Xian had already sensed it. He said, "Throw me over." Qin Chongqing directly threw Lin Xian onto the glacier. In the next moment, a rumbling sound rang out as endless glaciers swept towards Lin Xian. A gust of cold air spread in all directions. Immortal Qin hurriedly activated it, his tattered battle armor blocking. The 4 martial monarchs, who were rushing over from afar, came to a stop too. Their faces darkened. The Land of Glaciers, was this guy crazy? Just now, he threw the divine object into the Land of Glaciers. Was he willing to die in vain? The Golden Palm Emperor roared crazily. Immortal Qin, you're dead. How dare you destroy the divine object? A woman walked over. This woman was called Nan Feiyu, and she was also a great emperor. Her face was filled with incomparable killing intent. The other party had destroyed her hope. Unforgivable. The four great emperors were filled with killing intent. The spectators further away exclaimed, Immortal Qin is crazy. Is he planning to become enemies with the great emperors? Immortal Qin was about to cry, It's not my fault. It's Senior who wanted to go in. He still wanted to explain, but suddenly a shocking power erupted in front of him. The entire land of glaciers shook violently, and countless large cracks appeared. The four great emperors' faces changed. How is it possible? Someone can break the land of glaciers. Who is this person? Nan Feiyu's eyes flashed. She said, There seems to be a figure in the divine object. Could it be a powerhouse who was sealed? Could it be that he wasn't a divine object, but an ancient powerhouse? The great emperors guessed. Lin Xian roared angrily. He used the power of an immortal to break the land of glaciers. There was indeed endless power under the land of glaciers. There were actually 3,000 ice dragon veins. Moreover, they were very old, which made Lin Xian very happy. He directly activated the ice dragon veins. Boom! 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 Suddenly, dragon roars sounded, and 3,000 ice dragon phantoms circled above the land of glaciers. As soon as these ice dragon phantoms appeared, they swept across the world. The four great emperors kept retreating. Immortal Qin even dug a hole in the ground and escaped instantly. My goodness, this land of glaciers is actually filled with dragon veins, and 3,000 ancient dragon veins at that. How much power did they have when they erupted? If they could take these dragon veins and give them to the Fane of Destiny, they might be able to change their fate. Thinking of this, many people's eyes turned red. Behind them, a quasi-emperor rushed over and took out a gourd, wanting to take an ice dragon. However, the ice dragon smashed the gourd with a claw. That old man was also smashed into pieces and died with a scream. What a terrifying power of the ice dragon! Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Those quasi-emperors didn't dare to act rashly. Jian Jingyun also came, but at this moment he was also facing a great enemy. Looking at this scene, Nan Feiyu snorted coldly. You quasi-emperors, don't even think about it. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. The power of this ice dragon is too terrifying. It's not something you can absorb. Even the few of us might not be able to do it. What she said was indeed true. The four great emperors furrowed their brows tightly. This power was a little too strong. Moreover, 3,000 ice dragons were together. If they touched one, wouldn't they be attacked by all sides? Perhaps only the Sword Emperor of the Imperial Sword Villa could suppress it. Jian Jingyun also sent out a beam of sword qi flying into the distance. He said, I've already informed the Imperial Sword Villa. Soon the Sword Emperor will come. His eyes were filled with excitement. This time, he had made a great contribution. He wondered what treasures the Imperial Sword Villa would reward him with. Perhaps they could reward him with a few ice dragon veins. Hurry up and do it. Otherwise, when the Imperial Sword Villa comes, we won't have a chance. The four great emperors roared and began to attack. Those ice dragon veins were arrogant and unruly. They seemed to have transformed into divine dragons. How could they allow humans to snatch them? Even if these humans were great emperors, they couldn't. A great battle broke out in an instant. Everyone retreated to the distance. The four great emperors used all their means, trying to catch a few ice dragon veins. However, the 3,000 ice dragon veins condensed into one, turning into an even larger dragon shadow. It directly sent the great emperors flying. The four great emperors were all injured. Their emperor blood dyed the world red. Qin Changsheng originally wanted to attack, but at this moment he hesitated. Although he was courting death, he wasn't really courting death. In such a situation, he didn't dare to attack. He could only mutter, "Just now, the senior that I threw in, he wouldn't have died, right?" However, at this moment, a joyful voice was heard. That voice came from within the glaciers. "Oh, dragon veins, the heavens are really helping me. Be obedient and be absorbed by me." Chapter 60:151. The surrounding great emperors were all stunned when they heard the voice. Who was speaking? Moreover, he was eyeing the ice dragon vein. Damn it, did he not care about them at all? They looked around. However, they didn't find anyone, which made them even more confused. However, on the other side, Qin Chongqing was stunned. He could naturally tell that it was Lin Xian's voice. It was unbelievable that he didn't die. He was indeed more powerful than the great emperors. Moreover, it seemed that he wanted to absorb the ice dragon vein. Indeed, in the land of glaciers, Lin Xian's eyes shone with an extremely cold light. In the next moment, he walked out. "Look, there's someone inside." Nan Feiyu exclaimed. Everyone looked forward and saw a crystal floating in the air. Sealed within the crystal was a young man. Wasn't that the divine object? He was indeed alive. Who was this young man? Why could he release a mysterious power? Was he trying to absorb the ice dragon vein? Was this a joke? Even the great emperors couldn't do it. How could he? The Golden Palm Emperor said coldly. However, Lin Xian didn't care at all. His gaze fell on the ice dragon vein. Then he said, "Become my power." Arrogance, boundless arrogance. The ice dragon veins roared crazily when they heard this. 3,000 ice dragon phantoms roared into the sky, shattering the 9 heavens. This kid was dead. He would be torn to pieces. That was what everyone thought. Because the Golden Palm Emperor and the other great emperors kept retreating in the face of the 3,000 ice dragon roars. One could imagine how terrifying this power was. Roar. However, Lin Xian didn't retreat at all. He roared into the sky. His voice was like a dragon's roar. Moreover, it seemed more terrifying than the 3,000 ice dragons. A long roar shook the 9 heavens. In the next moment, the bodies of the 3,000 ice dragons all shook. The entire sky collapsed, and the earth cracked. The people in the distance exclaimed. He angered the ice dragon vein. Although they were dragon veins, after countless years, they were almost the same as demonic beasts. Even the great emperors couldn't resist the anger of the ice dragon vein. However, they didn't know that the ice dragons weren't shaking because of anger, but because of fear. Lin Xian's voice was filled with an extremely terrifying power that could destroy anything. This power caused the ice dragon veins to tremble. As if they had met the dragon god, they wanted to kneel down and submit. Lin Xian took a deep breath. Instantly, the power of the ice dragon vein began to dissipate. They turned into streaks of light that flew toward him and entered his body. The surrounding people were dumbfounded. The 4 great emperors were also shocked. In their opinion, this guy. However, they soon realized that they did not see him as such. He even began. The 4 great emperors were stunned. What kind of method was this? At least they didn't. Qin Chongqing was also extremely shocked. This is really a senior. He can't really be a god, right? With a roar, he scared the 3,000 ice dragon veins. He couldn't imagine such a thing except in his dreams. While these people were in a daze, the 3,000 ice dragon veins were completely absorbed by Lin Xian. There were all kinds of dragon-shaped phantoms around Lin Xian's body. There was a power in his body that was erupting like a volcano. The surrounding ice kept shattering. Swallowed, he swallowed them all. Qin Chongqing's heart ached. "Senior, you should leave one for me. If you left one for him, he might be able to offer it to the Fane of Destiny and let them help him change his luck." The other great emperors were also angry. "You're too arrogant. You're powerful, but you can't take the 3,000 ice dragon veins for yourself. Even if you swallow half, they won't say anything. At least you eat the meat and they can drink the soup. But you ate it all. How could these great emperors not be angry? Although I don't know what's wrong with you. But are you challenging us? I want you to know that great emperors are inferior. The golden palm great emperor took a step forward, and a sharp light burst out from his eyes. He had to get some dragon veins. Spit some out. Give me 100, and I won't do anything to you. Cooperate obediently. Otherwise, the four of us will join forces, and you won't have a good time. Qin Chongqing rolled his eyes after hearing this. The four great emperors were too cowardly. Each of them only asked for 100. Did they dare to ask for more? However, even if it was 100, Lin Xian didn't seem to care. At this moment, Lin Xian had closed his eyes and formed a seal with his palms. He was using the power of the ice dragon veins to recover his body. Even if he couldn't fully recover with the power of an immortal, he should at least have some mobility. Otherwise, he would just sit there like a treasure and be robbed by others. Good boy, you actually closed your eyes. Are you ignoring me? Damn it, I want to see what qualifications you have. How dare you look down on me? The golden palm great emperor roared, and the divine fire on his body erupted, turning into a golden palm. This palm slammed out, causing the sky to collapse and the earth to crack. Everyone could feel the great emperor's anger. It's over, this kid is dead for sure. Those who were watching the battle from afar exclaimed in surprise. Even Qin Chongqing frowned. Should he remind that fella? After all, that guy doesn't seem to be able to move. Buzz. Suddenly, Lin Xian opened his eyes. Looking at the peerless palm coming at him, he didn't dodge at all. In the next moment, he snorted coldly, and 2 rays of light burst out from his eyes like lightning, piercing through the 9 heavens. With a crack, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The golden palm suddenly cracked open. The golden palm great emperor retreated as if he was struck by lightning. His body was covered in cracks. No, what kind of power is this? Damn it, save me. He asked the people around him for help. However, it was useless. Just as he screamed, he shattered with a loud bang. His body and soul were destroyed. A rain of blood fell between heaven and earth, and there were even mournful cries. Heaven and earth mourned the death of a great emperor. At this moment, all the forests in this area felt a sense of sorrow and bloodline suppression. What happened? They looked up at the sky. Did a great emperor die? Impossible, right? Weren't the great emperors legendary characters? How could they die? These people were crazy. Even in the land of destiny, there were many great emperors. However, it wasn't common for a great emperor to die. Sometimes it was even rare to see one in 10,000 years. But today the emperor had fallen. As for everyone present, they were even more shocked. Those who were watching the battle from afar directly knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing. The other 3 great emperors felt their hair stand on end, and their bodies also trembled. What's wrong with this young man? Just now he killed a great emperor with a single glance. That's impossible, right? I'm dreaming. Nan Feiyu slapped himself directly, trying to wake up from the illusion. The other 2 great emperors were about to kneel. Chapter 6152. Lin Xian had killed a great emperor with a single glance. That had truly shocked everyone. Even Qin Chongqing was dumbfounded. Oh my, it's really an immortal senior. Greetings, Mad God. He ran out of the ground and shouted loudly. The others were also shocked. Mad God, is this a godlike figure? No wonder he could kill a great emperor instantly. Greetings, Mad God. The other 3 great emperors also hurriedly bowed. They discussed telepathically. Have you heard of this name? I don't know. Looking at him, he seems to have just woken up. Maybe he was hundreds of thousands or even millions of years ago. At that time, I wasn't even born yet. How would I know? Don't say any more. This person is too terrifying. We can't offend him. I hope he can be magnanimous and let us go. The people in the distance even knelt down. "Greetings, mad god." Lin Xian retracted his gaze. Then he coughed twice and spat out a few mouthfuls of golden blood. Sigh. Lin Xian sighed. The power of an immortal was too strong. His current strength exceeded that of an ordinary great emperor. He should be a super great emperor. However, it was too unstable. Lin Xian occasionally used it. Then the power of an immortal would shake. He couldn't stand it. He hurriedly used the power of the ice dragon vein to freeze the power in his body. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief because he felt that he could move next. He was free. He didn't absorb the 3,000 ice dragon veins for nothing. What's going on? Did he vomit blood? Qin Chongqing took a look and his heart beat wildly. Is this senior going to die? The other 3 great emperors also narrowed their eyes. What's going on? This mad god seemed to be injured. Could it be that he was weak? Should we take advantage of his illness and kill him? They all had the idea of attacking. At this moment, Lin Xian snorted coldly. A ray of light burst out from his eyes and then enveloped the 3 great emperors. He activated the power of the Rinnegan. Instantly, the 3 great emperors' scalps went numb. They felt as if their souls were about to be reincarnated. Lord Mad God, please spare us. The 3 of them hurriedly bowed and apologized. They didn't dare to have any other thoughts. Tell me more about the fortune shrine. The frost on Lin Xian's body shattered. He walked out of the crystal and approached the 3 martial monarchs. The 3 martial monarchs did not dare to hide anything from Qin Nan. They immediately told him everything they knew about the sacred palace of fortune. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes again when he heard that. Previously, he heard immortal Qin mention a bit, but it was only a rough idea. Now he knew more about it. It turned out that the people in the land of destiny were born with a destiny. This was called destiny. If you have the fate of becoming a great emperor, then you can become a great emperor. Otherwise, you will never be able to cross this hurdle, unless they went to the fane of destiny. As for finding Destiny Shrine, it was similar to what Immortal Qin said. However, usually the Fortune Shrine would send emissaries. Very few people could actually go to the Fortune Shrine. Most of them were messengers of fate. Of course, those who could meet the messenger of fate were few and far between. As for those who met the messenger of fate, very few of them were able to change their fate. At most, they could change their fate. Perhaps they might have another chance. Of course, it wasn't that no one had ever changed their fate. There were indeed people who were able to change their fate successfully, such as profound enlightenment. His fate didn't allow him to become a great emperor. However, he had found the Fortune Shrine and fulfilled the requirements of the Fortune Shrine. The Fortune Shrine helped him become a great emperor. Later on, there was Great Emperor Profound Enlightenment. The Profound Enlightenment finger shocked everyone. Great Emperor Profound Enlightenment was very famous in the land of destiny. His current strength was unfathomable. No one knew what cultivation level he had reached. There was also someone who had changed their fate. It was a woman called Nangong Duxiu. She was originally a great emperor. However, there was no hope for her to improve in the great emperor realm. However, she had also entered the Fortune Shrine. In the end, her strength had increased by leaps and bounds. It was because of such stories and legends that others were willing to risk their lives to enter the Fortune Shrine and change their fate. Lord Mad God, we've told you everything we know. Nan Feiyu said softly, "Can you let us go now? We won't dare to go against you any more." Lin Xian said, "I hope you can go." He waved his hand. The 3 great emperors hurriedly left as if they had been pardoned. Qin Chongsheng also wanted to leave. Lin Xian glared at him and then smiled. "Didn't you say that you want to go to the Fortune Shrine too? Great, we're going there." No, Senior, I was just joking with you." "How would I dare to go with you?" Lin Xian's face darkened. "Am I that old?" "To be honest, I'm not much older than you. I'm considered the younger generation." "What?" Qin Changxing was stunned. "Younger generation? Who are you kidding? You must be an old monster. An old monster who has lived for tens or hundreds of thousands of years. Humph! What are you pretending for?" Qin Changxing didn't believe it. The others didn't believe it either. It was too heaven-defying for the younger generation to kill a great emperor. No one in the land of destiny could do that. Therefore, he didn't believe that Lin Xian could do it either. Lin Xian shook his head and didn't say anything else. Instead, he asked, "What kind of gift do you think I should prepare for the fortune shrine?" "Can you enter?" "I'm not sure. However, if you can take out some immortal pill or divine item, you can definitely do it." Lin Xian rolled his eyes when he heard that. He really didn't have such a thing. Qin Changxing said, "If you don't have it, then there's only other way. I know 2 ways. First, go to the Imperial Sword Villa and get a top-grade sword spirit. With it, you might be able to see the messenger of destiny. Second, there's a fiery divine tree in the south of this place. If you can find the fruit it bears, then you can also see the messenger of destiny. However, these 2 things are very difficult. The fiery divine tree bears fruit once every 100 years. After it bears fruit, it will only stay for 10 days. Then the fruit will fall to the ground, turn into energy, and disappear. So can you find it? I don't think there's much hope." As for the Imperial Sword Villa, it was an extremely terrifying sect. They were filled with swordsmen. Moreover, the villa master of the Imperial Sword Villa was a sword emperor. His battle strength was extremely terrifying. More importantly, this sword emperor had seen the messenger of fate before. Although he didn't change his fate, he was still a sword emperor. Although he didn't change his fate, he had changed it. Therefore, the other great emperors didn't dare to provoke him. The Imperial Sword Villa was the overlord of this region. Lin Xian nodded after hearing this. "All right, then follow me to the fiery divine tree." With that, he waved his sleeve and flew into the distance with Qin Changxing. Did he leave? The people watching from afar heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Lin Xian disappear. Just now, when he was here, the pressure was too great. They couldn't even breathe. Not long after Lin Xian left, a few rays of light flew over from afar. These people floated in the void, immortal qi and divine fire erupting from their bodies. They were also great emperors. When they arrived, their eyes shone with a piercing light. Their voices were like thunder. "Where are the treasures here? Where is the ice dragon vein? Where did they go? Tell me." Chapter 60:153. The newly arrived great emperors were both furious and terrified when they learned that Lin Yun had left. Was there really someone who could kill great emperors with a single glance? Why didn't they believe it? These people couldn't have been scared silly, right? Lin Xian didn't pay any attention to these newly arrived great emperors. At this moment, he brought Qin Changxing and prepared to set off for the fiery god tree. The land of destiny was also extremely vast and divided into many regions. The region Lin Xian was currently in was called the Ice and Fire region. The reason for this was because the land of glaciers and the fiery god tree were 2 forbidden lands. Hence, this region was named after them. The 3,000 ice dragon veins in the land of glaciers had already been devoured by Lin Xian. Now he was heading for the fiery god tree. Along the way, Qin Changxing muttered in his heart, "This guy won't devour the fiery god tree too, right? If that's the case, this region will probably have to change its name." Finally, they arrived near the fiery god tree. It wasn't just a tree root. It was like a sea of fire. Even from far away, they could feel a shocking heat. It was as if they would be melted into ashes if they got any closer. At this moment, a battle was taking place at the edge of the fiery god tree. The 2 monstrous beasts were fighting over a single leaf of the fiery god tree. The two great emperors were very strong. They were fighting to the death, and their eyes were red. Lin Xian was speechless when he saw this. He said, "The people of this place are all so poor. You're fighting to the death over a leaf." Qin Chongqing rolled his eyes when he heard this. Poor? To be honest, he didn't lack cultivation resources. But so what? After cultivating to 6 crown king, he felt a bottleneck, which was his life providence. Was he destined to only be 6 crown king? If that was the case, it would be useless no matter how many resources he was given. Next, he would collect resources and treasures for the Shrine of Destiny. If one were to say that they were poor, they were really poor. After all, the Shrine of Destiny wouldn't care about ordinary things. These two demonic beasts must have their own reasons for fighting with each other. Sensing Lin Xian and Qin Chongqing's arrival, the two great emperors in front stopped fighting. They were also intelligent. They wanted to prevent others from taking advantage of them. He saw that immortal Qin was only a 6 crown king. The two fiend beasts didn't seem like it. They were both 7 crown kings. Roar! The two of them released angry roars, wishing to suppress immortal Qin. Qin Chongqing took 2 steps back and said angrily, "Humph, today is special. Otherwise, even if I have to risk my life, I would steal this leaf." Seeing that Lin Xian didn't retreat, the two demonic beasts were enraged. One of the demonic beasts rushed over and slapped Lin Xian. With a loud clang, the earth shook. Lin Xian was completely unscathed, while that demonic beast's claw was shattered, badly mangled. He let out a miserable roar, and a trace of terror appeared in his eyes. Such a powerful physique had completely surpassed his own. He was no match for him at all. Therefore he crawled on the ground. The other demonic beast also retreated uneasily, giving up the fire god's leaf. Lin Xian shook his head slightly. "I'm not interested in these things. You can take them away. I want the fire god fruit." Hearing this, a trace of terror appeared in the eyes of the two demonic beasts. One of the demonic beasts sent a spiritual message. It meant that the fire god tree was extremely terrifying. Even great emperors didn't dare to approach. Otherwise, they would be turned into ashes. "Master, be careful." "It's fine." Lin Xian walked forward. When Lin Xian stepped into the fire god tree forest, boundless flames instantly swept towards him. However, Lin Xian wasn't afraid at all. Even though he couldn't easily use the power of an immortal right now, he had the 9 heavenly body. His physique was extremely strong, and he had the 9 yang divine body. Therefore, when these flames hit his body, they were all absorbed. How terrifying! The two demonic beasts were even more terrified. Behind them, immortal Qin also gritted his teeth and followed after seeing this scene. Along the way, Lin Xian walked through the sea of flames. He could see the shadow of a tree in front of him. It was a tall tree that stood between heaven and earth, like a divine tree that reached the heavens. He only dared to spread it out. There were extremely terrifying fire laws on it. Every leaf was like a divine fire that kept on pulsating. At this moment, the sound of fighting could be heard in front of him. Lin Xian was shocked. Immortal Qin also said, "It can't be right. Someone is fighting here. It must be a top clan." He looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian said, "It's fine." After saying that, he didn't take a detour and directly walked forward. There was indeed a battle ahead. It was a battle between 3 clans. They were the Fire Wolf clan, the Vermilion Bird clan, and the Fire Ant clan. These 3 clans were all top clans led by great emperors. The great emperors held extreme weapons. The others took out all kinds of energy and natural treasures, causing the extreme weapons to shine with dazzling light. They protected them. As they advanced, they fought and blocked carefully. Suddenly, they seemed to see someone walking over from afar. Who was it? The 3 clans were facing a great enemy. They were all afraid that the other party had invited help. However, when they saw that it was 2 young men, they were all stunned, especially the young man walking in front. The flames on his body seemed to be even more terrifying. He was like a sun, shining so brightly that they couldn't open their eyes. "Who are you?" The great emperor of the Fire Wolf clan shouted angrily. Lin Xian ignored him. Courting death. The great emperor punched out with his fist. When it hit Lin Xian, the great emperor's expression changed. Not good. He felt a huge force bouncing back and sending him flying. He vomited a large mouthful of blood. Ancestor. The people of the Firewolf clan were all stunned. The great emperors of the other two clans didn't dare to make a move. Lin Xian didn't even look at these people and directly walked forward. The three clans retreated one after another, making a path. When Immortal Qin followed beside him, he was envious. Look, wherever he passed, the great emperors would retreat. What kind of glory was this? Unfortunately, it wasn't his strength, but the strength of the young man in front of him. Otherwise, if he came alone, he would be beaten to death by the three great emperors, not to mention not being able to reach here. Just like that, Lin Xian walked past the three powerful clans and continued walking. In the end, Immortal Qin couldn't take it anymore. He could only stand there and wait for Lord Mad God. "When you leave later, don't forget to take me with you," Immortal Qin shouted. Lin Xian waved his hand, telling him to wait there, and continued on his way. Finally, he got close to the divine tree. As for the fiery god tree, it seemed to have sensed someone's arrival. Boundless divine fire exploded, as if it could burn the heavens and destroy the earth. This power caused the people of the three great clans to continuously retreat. The great emperor's expressions also changed. Not good, the fiery god tree is angry. Let's retreat. They were helpless and frightened. Immortal Qin was also frightened and kept retreating. However, Lin Xian stood there like the sun god of war, unaffected by anything. He used his Rinnegan and looked around. Soon he sighed and didn't. With his soul power, he enveloped the entire fiery god tree. However, he didn't find the fiery god fruit. However, he stared at the huge tree trunk again. It was glowing. He couldn't see through its soul. At this moment, the fiery god tree released a wave of soul power. "Human, don't go too far." Chapter 6154. Everyone in the fiery god tree's territory was stunned by its furious roar. The members of the three major families were dumbfounded. The fiery god tree could roar. This was something they had never seen before. The Fire Wolf Emperor laughed bitterly. "Perhaps we're too weak and are being treated like ants by it." But now a true powerhouse had arrived. Even the fiery god tree felt threatened. Lin Xian stood under the fiery god tree. He clasped his hands behind his back and said calmly, "Don't be angry. I don't mean any harm and won't attack you. I just want a fiery god fruit. I want to go to the Destiny Temple." The fiery god tree was silent for a while, then said, 3 years ago I bore a fiery god fruit. However, at that time no one came. Thus, when it fell onto the ground, it turned into boundless flames. I can only bear one fruit every 100 years. So if you want it, you'll have to wait another 100 years. 3 years ago, Lin Xian sighed. Then there's nothing I can do. He shook his head. Goodbye. With that, Lin Xian turned and left. Qin Chongxing followed and said, "There's nothing I can do. You just woke up, so you can only leave it to fate." After Lin Xian left the fiery god tree's territory, the fiery god tree let out a sigh of relief. It muttered to itself, "What's wrong with this human? Why do I feel a trace of fear? His body is extremely strong, but with my strength I shouldn't be afraid. However, I feel that there's another kind of power in his body. It's a power that I've never seen before, a power that can split heaven and earth. Does this person also need to go to the Destiny Temple? Does he also need to change his fate?" The fiery god tree was confused. Finally, it was silent for a while. Then its endless branches shook. All the living beings in its territory had to get out. With an angry roar, the temperature of the entire fiery god forest suddenly rose. The Fire Wolf clan, Vermilion Bird clan, and Fire Ant clan's expressions changed. The three emperors quickly left the fiery god tree with their people. Lin Xian didn't care about what was happening here. Since there was nothing, he could only go to the Sword Villa. But Qin Chongqing said, "Are you sure you want to go to Imperial Sword Villa?" The Sword Emperor of the Imperial Sword Villa wasn't any weaker than the fiery divine tree. In addition to the Sword Emperor, there were other Sword Dao experts in the Imperial Sword Villa. In my opinion, I would rather offend the fiery divine tree than offend the Imperial Sword Villa. After all, he had offended the fiery god tree. If he could run, he would. That tree wouldn't chase after him. Once the Imperial Sword Villa was offended, countless swordsmen would chase after them. Even if he fled to the ends of the earth, he wouldn't be able to escape. After Lin Xian heard this, he smiled. "It's okay. I also want to see how strong the legendary Sword Emperor is." Since the other party dared to use this name, it meant that he was an expert in the way of the sword. Lin Xian was also a swordsman, and a top-notch one at that. Naturally, he would want to exchange blows with an expert of the Sword Dao. Fortunately, he was not in the right state of mind. Otherwise, he would have gone to meet the Sword Emperor. While Lin Xian was rushing to the Imperial Sword Villa, the others were also rushing to the Imperial Sword Villa, because it was said that the Imperial Sword Villa was going to produce a top-notch sword spirit. This was a big deal. A sword spirit was formed by the condensation of countless Sword Dao wills. It was an extremely strange thing. This thing was of great benefit to a peerless swordsman. Not only that, but the others also wanted it, because it was said that with a sword spirit, one could summon the messenger of fate. Perhaps it could change their fate. To the other experts, this was simply too attractive. Therefore, countless people headed to the Imperial Sword Villa in the name of congratulating them. Of course, this was only on the surface. Obtaining a top-notch sword spirit was their real goal. In a mountain range in the ice and fire hell, a man with a black sword on his back walked over. This man was dressed in white and was extraordinarily handsome. After he left, the entire mountain range split into several pieces, and the countless demonic beasts inside were all killed. Moreover, these demonic beasts all had one thing in common, and that was a sword between their eyebrows. Obviously, they were all killed instantly. Xiao Baifei was very satisfied that he had finally mastered the floating blood sword technique. Then he looked into the distance and gritted his teeth. "Imperial Sword Villa, just you wait. This time I must take back the flying sky sword." With a shake of his body, he turned into a sword light and disappeared. Wherever he passed, the void kept shattering. Some passers-by saw this scene and exclaimed, "What a terrifying sword chi! Retreat quickly. Don't fight with him." Those families and sects who were in a hurry all made way. In front of such a peerless swordsman, they were no match for him at all. On the other side, at this moment, the Imperial Sword Villa was also fully prepared. They would welcome countless experts. They had such confidence. Even if these people's goal was a top-notch sword spirit, so what? With the Sword Emperor, no one could succeed. At this moment, in the back mountain of the Imperial Sword Villa, there was a very mysterious cave. This was a forbidden area, and only a few people could come here. At this moment, an old man hurried over and entered the cave. Inside the cave, there was an extremely terrifying sword chi flickering. The old man had to use all his strength to move forward. Finally, he stopped and looked ahead. In front of him, there was a figure with his back to her, and near that figure, there was also a sword shadow. It was like a stream of sword chi that was constantly changing. This was the top-notch sword spirit, and this figure was the Sword Emperor. The old man said respectfully, reporting to the Sword Emperor, "We are ready to receive those experts." "But say," the man in front spoke, The old man took a deep breath and continued. But we got the news that Xiao Baifei may come this time. Xiao Baifei stole the floating blood sword technique, and we don't know where he is hiding. Recently, his strength seems to have increased greatly. He once appeared in the nearby forest and killed many top-notch beasts. It seems that he has mastered the floating snow sword technique. This time, I am afraid that he will come to harm our imperial sword villa. It doesn't matter. The Sword Emperor smiled. He turned around and saw that the Sword Emperor was also extraordinarily handsome. Moreover, on the surface, he looked like he was in his 30s. In fact, he had lived for 30,000 years. Even if he has mastered the floating snow sword technique, so what? He is still no match for me. I have already mastered that move. The old man was overjoyed. Really? Congratulations, Sword Emperor. He was really too excited. That move had already made the Sword Emperor go into seclusion for 1,000 years. Now he had finally mastered it. In other words, the Sword Emperor's fate was not over yet. The Sword Emperor still had hope of breaking through. Everyone had their own fate, and this fate was preordained by fate. Others could not see it accurately. Even they could not judge it accurately. Only those who had been stuck in cultivation for hundreds or thousands of years would know when they were in despair. It turned out that this was the sealing of their fate. Only in that moment of despair would they know their fate. The Sword Emperor had once gone into seclusion for thousands of years to cultivate one move, but there was no progress. So much so that the people around him thought that the Sword Emperor had reached the ceiling and could not move forward anymore. But unexpectedly he broke through again this time. It seemed that the Sword Emperor's fate was stronger than everyone had imagined. Chapter 6155. Sword City was a city below the Imperial Sword Villa. At this moment, countless figures gathered in the city. These figures had powerful auras and terrifying laws. Sword City originally had some disciples of the Imperial Sword Villa who were responsible for receiving them. But at this moment they were also a little dumbfounded, because this time the people who came were beyond their imagination. Look, isn't that beautiful woman Emperor Feiyu? Everyone looked over and saw a woman in white walking over. It was Nan Feiyu. Heavens, even the great emperors came? On the street, many people were shocked. Everyone knew about Nan Feiyu. She could be said to be the pride of the land of ice and fire. She had endless halos and was incomparably dazzling. Moreover, along the way, she had never suffered any setbacks. In fact, she had never been defeated. Just like that, she became a great emperor all the way. It could be said that countless people envied her. Another person said, "Look at that person, he's even more terrifying." Everyone turned their heads around, only to see a figure covered in flames walking over. The flames on this person's body were extremely terrifying. No one dared to look directly at him, and they were all defeated. Firewolf Emperor, the supreme emperor of the Firewolf clan, he actually came too? It was said that 5 years ago he once fought with another great emperor and injured him. It could be said that he was extremely powerful. Everyone discussed in low voices. After the Firewolf Emperor in the sky heard it, he didn't say anything. After all, he was also a great emperor now. He didn't care about the ants below at all. How could he care about the discussions of these ants? His figure flashed, and he instantly disappeared from the city. The Thunder Sovereign had also come. Heavens, they saw countless experts appear like emperors, standing above the 9 heavens. Although they only stayed for a while and disappeared in an instant, but it still made the others envious. Those young people's eyes were red. Their lifelong dream was to become a great emperor. They had heard all kinds of legends about great emperors since they were young. However, there weren't many who had really seen a great emperor, very few. Some people even didn't see a great emperor in their lifetime. But now they saw a great emperor here. Moreover, several great emperors appeared together. This was something they didn't dare to imagine even in their dreams. At this time, a big man laughed and said, "I wonder if there are any other powerful people who have appeared." As he spoke, he stomped an ant to death. This was originally nothing much, but in the next instant, the earth trembled and the sky shattered. A cold voice came at him. "You actually dared to kill a member of my fire ant clan. Go to hell." With a loud boom, the burly man was smashed into pieces. The surrounding people were stunned. What did this big man do? The burly man's face was also filled with despair. He had only stepped on a small ant and was killed by someone. He had also cultivated to the Saint King level. The death of a Saint King had truly shocked many people. After all, a great emperor was a lofty figure in the eyes of cultivators like him. Those above the Saint Plane were already extremely terrifying. Now a Saint King was actually killed in an instant. What exactly happened? Someone said that he had trampled an ant to death. That's not an ant. That's a member of the Fire Ant clan. Now that the Ant Emperor has come out, aren't you courting death by daring to kill a member of the Fire Ant clan? What? The others gasped in shock. Suddenly, they didn't even dare to walk now. They were afraid that they would trample an ant to death on the road. If it was a member of the Fire Ant clan, then they would be in trouble. For a moment, everyone trembled. At the same time, 3 more figures appeared in Sword City. These 3 people were Lin Xian and the others. In addition to Qin Changsheng, there was another person beside him. This person carried a long flame sword on his back. He looked like a middle-aged man, and the aura on his body was also extremely terrifying. However, at this moment, the other party was standing beside Lin Xian with great respect. Coming into the city, Lin Xian's eyes flickered. Is this Sword City? He looked around and felt several powerful auras, which were the auras of divine fire and immortal qi. There was more than one great emperor, and there were even a few familiar auras. At this moment, the middle-aged man with a long sword on his back walked over and said, "Young master, this is Sword City. Behind it is the Sword Villa." Yes, Lin Xian nodded. They had met this man with a long sword on his back on the road. Logically speaking, this should be one of Qin Changsheng's enemies. Qin Changsheng liked to court death and snatch treasures when he had nothing to do. This man with a long sword on his back was called the Fire Cloud Sword King. Once, Qin Changsheng had snatched the treasure that the other party had taken a fancy to, but Qin Changsheng refused to admit it. He said, "The treasure is ownerless. Only those with ability can obtain it." The Fire Cloud Sword King ignored him. He was the 8-crown king. Qin Changsheng was the 6-crown king. Therefore, he immediately made a move. However, he made a mistake. Not only did he make a move against Qin Changsheng, he also made a move against Lin Xian. In his opinion, Lin Xian and Immortal Qin were definitely in cahoots. In the end, he suffered a tragedy. Lin Xian subdued him with a single glance. The Fire Cloud Sword King immediately submitted. Heavens, although it was just a glance, the sword contained within was something he had never seen before. Therefore, he willingly became Lin Xian's follower. From then on, he had always followed by Lin Xian's side, all the way until they reached this Sword City. Lin Xian did not care either. His main goal now was to go to the Imperial Sword Villa and obtain the Sword Spirit. As for who was by his side, let him be. Anyway, they could not threaten him. Qin Changsheng was similarly incomparably excited. He said, "Our great Qin family should be here too." Finished speaking, he took out the family token. While transmitting voice, he brought Lin Xian and the rest to the hall ahead. In an incomparably simple and unadorned hall, Qin Changsheng saw the people of the great Qin family. "Old man, you guys really came too. Great Qin family." When the white-haired elder Qin saw Qin Changsheng, he similarly revealed a smile. He said with a smile, "I knew that you little brat wouldn't die so easily. The heavens really have eyes, you're still alive. This is—" He looked at Lin Xian, somewhat surprised. because he didn't know Lin Xian. However, he felt that he was somewhat familiar. There was no other way. The previous Lin Xian, whether it was when he devoured the dragon or when he attacked the great emperor, had a mysterious aura. His body carried a trace of mysterious power. Under this kind of power, even the great emperor might not be able to see clearly, let alone Elder Qin. He couldn't see Lin Xian's face clearly at all. Therefore, he didn't recognize him at this moment. Qin Chongxing didn't explain too much. He said, "This is my new big brother, Lin Gongzi." New big brother? Elder Qin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, he ignored it. Qin Chongxing always liked to do unreliable things. Originally, he thought that Lin Xian was also a young genius. However, when he saw the Fire Cloud Sword King standing respectfully behind Lin Xian, he was immediately stunned. Chapter 60-156. Elder Qin might not know Lin Xian. However, how could he not know the Fire Cloud Sword King? This was the land of ice and fire, the extremely famous Sword King. The other party was the Eight Crown King, and his talent in the Sword Dao was extremely terrifying, not weaker than Jian Jingyan. Moreover, he was someone who had a high chance of becoming an emperor within 1,000 years. Such a person could be said to be famous, like thunder in the ears. Therefore, he hurriedly walked over and said, "So it's the Fire Cloud Sword King. Sorry for not welcoming you. Sword King, this way please." He was extremely respectful. However, the Fire Cloud Sword King stood there motionless. He even said coldly, "So it's Elder Qin, you're too polite. In the future, don't call me Sword King, because I'm not worthy. I've already followed Lin Gongzi and become his follower. No, perhaps I'm not even qualified to become a follower. However, if I can stay by Lin Gongzi's side, even if I become a servant, I'm willing." When he heard this, Elder Qin was stunned. What was going on? The famous Fire Cloud Sword King was actually willing to be a slave, just to stay by Lin Gongzi's side. He looked at Lin Xian again and was extremely surprised. Who exactly was this young man? However, Lin Xian didn't answer at all. He stood there with his hands behind his back, but his gaze was looking into the distance. It was as if he was investigating the situation in the entire Sword City. Elder Qin could only look at Qin Chongxing. Qin Chongxing said, "Old man, don't ask. In short, I'll give you a reminder. Don't offend him. Even if you offend the great emperor, don't offend him. Do you understand? Otherwise, not only will you be in trouble, but the great Qin family will also be in trouble." Elder Qin was shocked again. No way. Was this person's background even more powerful than the great emperor? Could it be that he was the descendant of a few terrifying giants? Thinking of this, he took a deep breath. He no longer looked at the Fire Cloud Sword King, but said to Lin Xian, "Lin Gongzi, this old man's eyes are clumsy. I've neglected young master. Young master, this way please." At that moment, a disdainful voice sounded out from the distance. "The great Qin family has truly declined. Since when did he have to be so respectful to a young man? Humph, what a joke. What did you say?" When he heard this, Qin Chongxing was instantly enraged. "The one who spoke, get the hell out here." Since the other party dared to challenge the great Qin family, they could not be forgiven. However, Elder Qin's expression changed. He pulled Qin Chongxing and said, "Don't mess around." The one who spoke was the Killer King, Nine Crown King. Furthermore, his methods were extremely cruel. Those who offended him were all mercilessly killed by him. There were even some who wished they were dead. Therefore, no one below the great emperor realm dared to offend him. So he was the Nine Crown King, the Killer King. Qin Chongxing also frowned. How could he not have heard of this person's name? This was the land of ice and fire. It was an extremely famous great demon. One must not provoke it. At this moment, laughter came from the distant palace. What great Qin clan? I don't think he has the right to be here. Killer King, you don't have to do anything. If you don't like it, I'll kill them. Laughter came from beside the Killer King. It was obvious that this was his subordinate. The Killer King coldly snorted. What is the Great Qin clan? I can slap them to death with one hand. Now that I've reached the 9 Crown King's realm, I no longer have any opponents. I only yearn for the great Emperor realm. After speaking, killing intent gathered on his body. It was like a mountain, pressing down on the Great Qin clan. This killing intent was not enough to take a person's life, but it was enough to make the Great Qin clan kneel on the ground. One had to know that countless experts, families, and sects were gathered in Sword City. Once the Great Qin clan kneeled, it would be an eternal humiliation. Damn it, they were going too far. Qin Chongqing's eyes were red. The Fire Cloud Sword King also frowned. However, he did not say anything. This was because the Killer King was an expert who was stronger than him. In this world, the strong were respected. Lin Xian's gaze darkened because he realized that the other party's killing intent was also attacking him. It seemed to want him to kneel. He was courting death. He snorted coldly, and immediately the killing intent that filled the sky shattered. Then Lin Xian looked over. The light of reincarnation turned into a terrifying sword shadow that directly pierced through the clouds. In the opposite palace, a blood-curdling scream was heard. Immediately after, the sky was filled with killing intent. Then, with a bang, boundless laws spread out, and a cloud of blood mist drifted away. In that palace, countless people were terrified. Killer King, what happened to you? The Killer King was dead. What? The Killer King was dead? The experts in the surrounding palaces were all shocked. Impossible. The Killer King was the 9 Crown King. Who could kill him? I didn't feel the aura of a great emperor just now. One soul after another probed into the area. However, when they discovered that the Killer King was really dead, these experts were all shocked. An expert was attacking. Everyone quickly withdrew their souls. They must not anger the other party. For a moment, the place was terrifyingly quiet. The Great Qin clan's elders and the other members of the Qin clan looked at Lin Xian. Their faces were also filled with fear. Just now, it seemed that the other party was angry. Moreover, his body emitted an aura that directly flew to the distant palace. Then the Killer King died. Could it be that it was this young man in front of them who killed him? They sucked in a cold breath. The other party killed the 9 Crown King with a single glance. What kind of strength was this? This was the strength of a great emperor. This young man was actually a great emperor. No wonder the Fire Cloud Sword King would become his slave. No wonder Qin Chongqing said that the entire clan should not provoke him. It turned out that the other party really had such strength. Whoever offended a great emperor would end up worse than death. In Sword City, there were a few palaces floating in the air and some great emperors were seated. These great emperors naturally knew what was happening outside. Among them, there were a few great emperors who frowned deeply. They also knew about the Killer King. If they wanted to kill him, they could do it with a single glance. However, they wouldn't do so, because this was Sword City, the territory of the Imperial Sword Villa. Making a move here was not giving the Imperial Sword Villa any face. These great emperors knew how powerful the Imperial Sword Villa was. Even they didn't dare to offend them easily. Who was it? These people were very curious. When did such an arrogant person come to the land of ice and fire? As for the Fire Cloud Sword King, he was even more respectful. Look, this was a real sword. A single glance was comparable to a divine weapon. When could he reach such a realm? The Killer King's death caused quite a bit of shock. The Imperial Sword Villa naturally knew about it. Jian Jingyan frowned deeply. Who was challenging them? However, he didn't make a move. Instead, he received a notice from the elder. Go, collect the Killer King's qi and blood. Although Jian Jingyan was puzzled. He still went to the palace. He took out a gourd and collected all the qi and blood floating in the air. Jian Jingyan didn't understand why he did this. However, he still quickly returned to the imperial sword villa. The elder brought him to the back mountain. When he saw the sword emperor, Jian Jingyan hurriedly bowed. The sword emperor said, "Next, let's try the power of this top sword spirit." Chapter 60:157. Jian Jingyan was surprised. He didn't understand the power of a top-level sword spirit. He knew that a top-level sword spirit had appeared in the Imperial Sword Villa and countless people wanted it, but he had never seen it before. In the next moment, he saw it. In the cave, a sword shadow flew out and enveloped the gourd. The blood mist in the gourd flew out and gradually condensed into the appearance of the Killer King under the sword shadow. The Killer King was a skinny man, and one of his eyes was blind. Only the other eye was still fine. The other party was obviously a ruthless person. At this moment, the qi and blood condensed again. Was he alive? Jian Jingyan was stunned. A dead master was resurrected just like that? No, he wasn't alive. He just condensed his body, but his soul was gone. Greetings, master. The new Killer King knelt at the feet of the Sword Emperor. How was this possible? Didn't he have no soul? How could he speak? How could he move? Jian Jingyan was completely stunned. The Sword Emperor laughed and said, "Yun-er, don't worry." This was the power of a sword spirit. The sword spirit controlled him. He was now a sword slave. Was this the power of a top-level sword spirit? Jian Jingyan was completely stunned. With such a sword spirit, the Imperial Sword Villa could make many powerful puppets. By then, who would be their match? Well, take this puppet to the Sword City. Let those martial monarchs witness the power of our Imperial Sword Villa. Yes, Jian Jingyan was very excited. When the time came, those great emperors would probably be stunned. The Sword Emperor said coldly, "Follow him. From now on, he is your young master." Yes, the Killer King stood up and left with Jian Jingyan. Jian Jingyan was incomparably excited. Although the Killer King's soul was already dead, he was still extremely excited. Although the Killer King's body was dead, the killing intent was still there. Even though he was the 8-crown king, his scalp was still numb. But fortunately, this body had completely surrendered to him. To be exact, it had surrendered to the sword spirit. Jian Jingyan left with the Killer King. But the Sword Emperor didn't leave the back mountain of the Imperial Sword Villa. He took out another gourd, which contained even more terrifying qi and blood. He said indifferently, "Golden Palm Emperor, I didn't expect you to die. To be honest, I never thought of getting an Emperor Realm sword slave. However, since you're dead, you should obediently serve me." After saying those words, he waved his hand, and an even more terrifying aura appeared within the gourd. This was the blood of a great emperor. The entire manor was shaking. However, an even more terrifying sword qi rushed out of the sword monarch's body. The sword monarch's strength surpassed the Golden Palm monarch's. Therefore, he was able to completely suppress the Golden Palm monarch. With a wave of Zhang Xian's hand, the sword spirit flew back and began to forge a new emperor-level sword slave. When the elders in the distance saw this, they were extremely excited. If they really succeeded, then the strength of their Imperial Sword Villa in the future would be unimaginable. On the other side, 2 more figures appeared in Sword City. Jian Jingyan had returned. At the same time, he let out an extremely arrogant roar. This caused countless gazes to turn towards him. Someone asked, "Jian Jingyan, has your Imperial Sword Villa opened? Did he invite us in?" Jian Jingyan said, "Seniors, please wait for a moment. The Imperial Sword Villa will officially open in 3 days. When the time comes, you can all go." After saying that, he ignored the crowd and directly walked forward. At the same time, Another figure appeared behind him. This figure moved together with him. The surrounding people were stunned. That person looked familiar. Wait, wasn't he the Killer King? What Killer King? Stop joking. The Killer King had already died. He was killed by a mysterious expert in one move. How could he still be alive? That's right, that mysterious expert should also be a great emperor. Otherwise, how could he kill Nine-Crown King? When a great emperor attacked, there was nothing wrong. However, he really was the Killer King. In an instant, the news spread throughout the entire Sword City. The Killer King wasn't dead. He was alive again. Countless people came to see. The palace where the great Qin family was located also received the news. After Elder Qin walked over, he said, "Do you know? The Killer King is alive." "That's impossible." Qin Chongsheng instantly jumped up. He knew of Lin Xian's strength. Lin Xian had killed a great emperor. No matter how strong the Killer King was, how could he be stronger than a great emperor? However, when Qin Chongsheng saw the Killer King with his own eyes, he was stunned. He returned in a daze and came to Lin Xian's side. He said he really came back to life. After Lin Xian heard this, he frowned and a light appeared in his eyes. He came back to life? How was that possible? In the next moment, his soul floated outside to investigate. Not only him, but the other great emperors also probed out their souls. Nan Feiyu exclaimed, "He really came back to life." Fire Wolf Emperor frowned. "What's going on?" Jian Jingyun, what's going on? What's going on with the Killer King? Is it related to your imperial sword villa? In an instant, countless people were paying attention. Jian Jingyun smiled. "Greetings, Senior Fire Wolf." This time he came with a mission. The Sword Emperor asked him to bring the Killer King here, not just to show off. There was something more important. He wanted to attract the attention of these people and then display the power of the sword spirit. At that time, these people would definitely be jealous and fight crazily. Once the battle started, no one would be able to control it. Several great emperors would fight, and there might even be great emperors who would fall. Even if there were no great emperors, he would take action and kill a few great emperors. This way, their imperial sword villa would be able to create a large number of sword slaves. They could even have a few more emperor-level sword slaves. At that time, the imperial sword villa was the most powerful giant in the land of ice and fire. No one dared to provoke them. And he could gather the power of the land of ice and fire and go to the other forbidden areas in the land of destiny to obtain treasures. Then he could go to the Temple of Destiny again. The Sword Emperor's plan was perfect, and things would go according to plan step by step. Jian Jingyun said, "This is indeed related to our new sword spirit." What? The Killer King's resurrection was related to the sword spirit? Was it really related to the Imperial Sword Villa? Heavens, at this moment, everyone in the Sword City went crazy, and the eyes of the great emperors also burst out with a piercing light. Did the sword spirit have the ability to resurrect? Could he resurrect anyone? Even great emperors could do it? Was it resurrection? Or was it an illusion? Speak clearly, the Fire Wolf Emperor said coldly. Jian Jingyun smiled and said respectfully, "Senior Great Emperors, I don't know the details. Everyone, please calm down. 3 days later, you will know when you go to the Imperial Sword Villa." Humph! The Fire Wolf Emperor was angry. With a cold roar, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Jian Jingyun's expression changed drastically. He couldn't resist the anger of the great emperor. However, at this moment, a sword slashed over from the Imperial Sword Villa in the distance. It shattered the power that filled the sky. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.